Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. This is the Weekly Spinner Rack, and I'll be your host tonight, Chris. I'm the host every week. Lovely to have all of you here in chat. I see the numbers just going tick, 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 and I know a lot of people watch this on the rewind, so grateful for you all as well. I have a heck of a good show. If you're going to only tune into one of these, this is probably the one, folks. There is a lot of news, including literally just a couple hours ago, Warner Brothers Discovery had their quarterly investor call. Some huge news for the implications on DC Comics. There's some amazing comics to discuss this week. The final issue, for instance, of Daniel Warren Johnson's The Moon is Following Us. I should say Daniel Warren Johnson, Riley Rossmo, and Mike Spicer's comic. But before we get to the reviews and the news, we're going to kick it off with an interview, one that I'm personally pretty stoked for. I think you're going to have a good time. We have two amazing creators, a power team of sorts that have been behind books like The Pro, Painkiller Jane, Jonah Hex, Supergirl, Harley Quinn. I think you guys know where I'm going, even if you hadn't read the actual title and looked at the thumbnail. Folks, I'd love to welcome Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti. Thank you both so much for giving all of us a little bit of your time today. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm also doing well, doing very well, getting the opportunity to talk to you guys. I know that you guys operate out of Florida, and you're active on social media. I saw that last year during the hurricane season, you guys got hit kind of hard with some flooding and stuff. Has the studio and stuff recovered from that?
You can't see us with waist down, but we're sitting in what looks like a hot tub.
No.
So our house, thank God, was fine.
That's good. That's good.
The office. We have an office in the back of a comic shop called Emerald City Comics in Clearwater. Which, if you've never been, this comic shop is as big as a supermarket. It's a pretty good show. Dr. Shovel. Hey, everybody.
Just some nice words.
So we had 110 mile per hour winds hitting the side of the wall where our studio was. And what it did, it pushed in the building a little bit, just a little bit, and water went underneath. And we filled up 2 giant garbage bins worth of backstock books. They got destroyed. Like literally within 2 days or 3 days, mold was growing on the books. That's how quick they got. But a lot of them got destroyed. And of course, the insurance covered maybe 1/8 of what they actually were worth. But as that's one way of getting rid of inventory, I guess. Not the preferred way.
No.
But we definitely will, like, it kind of. I took some pictures because at one point there's our office, and then right next to it is a giant gate that opens
like
and closes.
An overhead door.
Yeah, that the trucks back up and we take stuff in, and the wind hit it so hard it curled the metal gate created a vacuum, and the vacuum pulled the books outside.
Right.
And I have a great photo of like 4 feet of water, and it's like submerged, like comics, like tons of comics submerged, which was making some people very upset. So I took it down because they were getting very pissed off that all those comics got ruined.
It is a very sad picture.
It is. But, I know I'm starting off with something dark. I was just hoping like you've been able to recover and stuff.
I mean, this is after dark, right? So
it is. Thank you.
Even though it's giving it away with the bright sunlight coming in through your window behind you.
No, no one can see. No one can see.
We could just say that's a nuclear explosion kind of working its way around you, but
not completely out of the realm of possibility.
No, but at the end of the day, most of this stuff was just our inventory. A lot of Painkiller Gang trades and stuff like that, and insurance. Insurance is a joke. They covered 1/8 of what it was worth.
Insurance is so tricky these days because there's certain areas of the country where insurance companies are just like, you know what, we're going to get out of there. So,
or they go, we're out of money.
Yeah, like raise all the premiums. So, I grew up with nor'easters in Boston.
Oh yeah,
The hurricanes,
the good stuff was saved. All the good stuff was saved.
Good.
So
Good.
and we were fine. I mean, people lost their houses. We just kind of lost a bunch of comics, but we'll make more. So
that's exciting. Speaking of making more, one thing that I've been really impressed that you guys have been doing was how, you created, sure, you work for some of the big companies like Marvel and DC, but you've really created your own cottage industry with paper film, and you've done at least 4 off the top of my head successful crowdfunding campaigns now.
We've done 25. The top of your
25?
Yeah, your top of your head was only grabbing a piece of it, but
I knew you'd done a bunch, but then I just before we started, I was like, I should check the number. I went to Kickstarter and clicked on the paper film, and it was only showing me the 4.
So we have 2 kinds of Kickstarters we do. One of them's under my name. Most of them is under Jimmy Palmiotti, but right. And when it's a paper film one, it's usually like a reprint of a book or a digital one. So we kind of kept it. We kind of do a set, but it's 20. We've done like 25, and we're actually
that's incredible.
We're fulfilling the Painkiller Jane one right now, but we got all the books. But the one of the books had a line, a green line, a glitch from the printer. So we sent them back. So we just have to wait another week.
Oh my!
I figured people are paying top dollar. I want to make sure the books are perfect.
It seems like you've got like then a regular thing going there where you're able to fulfill this all yourself. I mean,
yeah, we do it. Me and Amanda, Patrick, his kids. I mean, it's getting harder and harder because when we were doing crowdfunding, we lately the bigger companies are doing it, so they're really taking a lot of money from guys like us that are just.
That's interesting because I always wondered about something like that, whether the bigger companies were doing it just to figure out the exact numbers that they need to fulfill, or if you thought that they were encroaching onto more of an indie comics audience.
No, what they are is greedy, and they're corporations. So it's not like it's like me and Amanda doing a book. They literally have companies that are $1 million companies, multi-million-dollar companies, doing Kickstarters to make, and then they put the book out afterwards with another cover, so what they're doing is what are they double dipping into the fandom a little bit. They're double dipping,
I guess.
Yeah
Okay.
And it makes it tougher for us because people go, then they see ours. I only do 2 or 3 a year, and they go, oh, I just backed this thing for $300 and whatever, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. Jordy Bernay, yes, we love Jordy. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I like your audience. They're very active. They're very
they are, and I can only like pick and choose for like the people watching later to sort of get a gist of what's being discussed. But is there anything that you think that you've pulled out of that say like, the legit smaller independent creators can learn on what to do to make a crowdfunding campaign successful?
Yeah, when I started, every year at cons, I always talk through people, the Kickstarters, then I support them, and then I promote them for them, and it's just the thing I always say is have your book done. You might lose money, you might whatever, but just get your book done.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure everyone is out promoting for you. So this is where I always say the rule of be a good person and be friendly and have friends really comes into effect because you need to have the circle around you supporting you. And if you don't, you're going to have a hard time. No matter who you are, you're going to have a hard time.
Yeah. It seems like you can keep getting work with like 2 of these 3 things, but to be like, really successful, you need to like have talent, hit deadlines, and be pleasant to work with. That's just an easy way of putting it.
Well, I mean, don't spend all your time on the internet being negative towards people. You will get a following of people waiting for you to drop the next bomb on someone. But realistically, these are real people. I always say, be nice because everybody making comics are trying to do the best comics they can. And because they may not have the skills or they may not have the experience, that doesn't mean they are working any less than anybody else. And
that's fair.
So you have to have empathy for other people and be encouraging for everybody around you. I think you'll have a better life if you have a really good circle of people around you that are supportive. And the only way to get that is to be one of those people.
That's fair. Amanda, I'd love to pay you a specific compliment, which is I'm a fan of your artwork, but there are definitely two sort of separate skills that we've talked about on this show in the past, where there's telling a story, which is, you know, the interior sequential pages, and there's selling a story, which is your covers. And I think your covers are some of the best cartooning out there in how much of a story you will tell, often with humor. But like, I just got to say, like, I'm constantly blown away by that. How much time does it take you to come up with a good idea of, like, not just the layout or composition, but the idea itself? Is that easy?
It's each one is different. Sometimes I struggle.
Okay.
Trying to think of a concept, and more often than not, I really love to do a storytelling cover where, you know, there's something going on, and, you know, you can look at it and you can see a scenario happening on this, you know, on the cover, and there's like a whole story going on. Other times I love the idea of just doing something really, really graphic and cool looking, like, you know, and like postery.
Yeah.
And every once in a while I will struggle to come up with an idea. And then other times, as soon as somebody mentions a character and what's going on in the book, I'll be like, I know what I'm going to do.
Okay.
So they're all different. Like every once in a while, like the cover I'm working on something right now. And it took me a long time to come up with the concept. I just sent it in, so I don't know if they're going to say yes to it or not. I hope they do.
Yes.
But it's very postery. You know, because I couldn't like get a beat on what was going on in the story, and like, you know,
They don't always tell you.
They don't always tell me. They just
we're definitely, Amanda's a person that wants the script so she can read it.
Yeah.
And they don't always have that. They don't always have it done.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Yeah.
So so this one's a little postery. I'm waiting to hear back, but other times, like when I was doing the Harley Quinn books that Frank Thierry was doing, and he was like, okay, this is what's going on. And then I'd be like, okay, I got a concept for you. I'll have you something by this evening. So you know,
the direction can help up front.
Thank you.
Amanda does a good imitation. Everyone we know has a Frank Thierry imitation. They're usually like rah 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 rah, like a dog barking. Rah 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 rah.
Great impressions.
I'm Frank Thierry. I forget you, your mother, you know, whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, you guys have collaborated with Frank a lot, but he's doing well. Let me think. In fact, I'd love to pivot to collaboration in general, which is, you know, what is it like for your work dynamic? Let's simplify it, like, because you guys are a couple, and I just don't understand. Like, I love my wife, and I could do just about anything with her, but I don't know if we would work well together. How do you come up with rules so that, like, you've got boundaries?
We actually started working. We were working together. we were working together before we started being a couple.
Right.
You know, Jimmy was inking me on the Gargoyles comic covers, and when I say Gargoyles comic covers, I mean the 90s ones.
Yeah, the Marvel one.
So yeah.
I don't know what you expect me to do.
Stay focused, Amanda.
So yeah, we were actually work partners before we were like romantic partners.
That's
so
fair.
Yeah, that came first actually.
Yes.
So
yeah, it did. She was
you knew how to work together.
Yeah, we already knew how to work together.
Yeah. But you know, it's her office is upstairs. We're in my office right now. Hers is upstairs.
It's
having the floor between us helps a little bit, because if we were in the same area, I listen to music while I work. She listens to people talking and different things. Yeah, so we have to we have two separate jobs we're doing. Unless we're both like coloring at the same time, or we're doing something, then we'll sit in the living room and we'll do it together.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, but I've collaborated my whole career with people. You know, I like working with other writers and stuff like that. I just think it comes down to personality, you know, that you can get along with somebody. And for Amanda, like when we worked on Harley, we, you know, over 100 issues, we literally were just trying to make each other laugh all the time. Like we were trying to be like, how insane can the next person get? you know, and you know, so we were trying to one up each other with all the books we were doing.
You guys have each had like several lengthy runs on books, but your Harley run is, I mean, I think at this point, a lot of people have to look back and say that defined a lot of what Harley became. You know, you guys did just two back-to-back like runs before and after Rebirth, and really just, you know, one thing I found interesting was it never felt like there was a definitive status quo. Like Harley would literally be wearing bits and stuff, you know, from issues to issue, which most superheroes, they just suit up and it's always the same.
That was something that
collaboration.
I told Jimmy, I was like, what girl do you know that has one outfit in her closet? You know?
Yeah.
So, and Harley's colors and her patterns are so, you know, identified for her that you can do a million different outfits for her, but you always know it's her.
Sure.
So you know, it's like, yeah, you know, she can have the roller skating outfit, she can have a chef outfit, she can have, you know, like a midwife outfit or an elf outfit or, you know, any kind of costume, and as long as it has her colors and her symbols, you know, her little diamonds and, you know, her little stars,
we
it's
were
like Harley.
And we were inspired by when we started the book. When they gave us the book, they said it was only going to last like 6 or 8 issues. So they said, do whatever you want. And, you know, the first thing we did is we got her out of Gotham because we were like, that's a Batman character world. We need to bring her somewhere else. And we need to create a supporting cast for her. But the other thing was, again, Amanda said, you know, we could change her outfit as long as we keep the symbols. People know it's Harley.
Yeah.
Loved it.
And we got inspired by all the cosplay people because they would do variations. And we're like, well, we should be able to do that. And let's do it. To be honest with you, at first it was so under the radar, nobody cared. And then when the book really started selling, like it went out, like by the 6th or 8th issue, the numbers were crazy. And at that point, they couldn't get down on us because they're like, well, it's working. You guys just keep doing what you're doing. And, you know.
I didn't mean to speak over you. I was just going to say that I think you really made Harley identifiable with, she had a look in terms of how she held herself and her facial expressions. Her dialogue stood out from other characters. So there were like these great like bits that you really, you gave DC so much with that. So much.
We did.
What's funny, Kevin just mentioned how, you know, like we sort of defined redefined the new 52 character, you know, the Harley version. And basically she had, from her very original, you know, the classic Harley, the little jester suit and everything like that, she had gotten so far away from that. And when we got an opportunity to work with her, we actually steered her back towards it. You know, like she began as like a really silly, fun-loving, though murderous character. But, you know, she started getting dark and, you know, people were trying to do that like 90s, like death girl, sexy kind of, you know, and I'm like, that didn't feel Harley to us. It didn't, you know, like, so we sort of, you know, she wore a new outfit, but we sort of steered her back towards her original personality.
Right. And the other thing we did is we kept continuity in her own series. So with the 5 years we worked on it, it's one continuous story. If you put those 3 omnibuses next to each other, it is one story. There is no breaks. The minute we were off the book, like everybody did their version of the character. But what happens, and I saw that they were going to do that earlier, and that's why we kind of took control of everything so much.
Sure.
Because once you do that, you water down the character real quick, right? Everybody does their version of Harley, and then there's no more definitive spine to the character. It's just any Harley story people write. And I think that's what happened when we left, is like all of a sudden Harley was in 30 or 40 different books, and it lost a little bit of the specialness in the character, and that's why we're going to wrangle it back.
Well, and I'll continue that. I just want to say one quick thing is just that I think as you become an older reader, or you've read comics for a certain amount of time, that's when you start realizing it can be more fun to follow creators you like rather than a character, because there can be a definitive run. That doesn't mean that it's going to be consistent for the next 5, 6, 7, 10, 20 years. Who knows?
Yeah, we're comic fans. Like our brain you know, whenever you started reading comics, that's the story. That's the Hulk you like because you started reading Hulk when that was like for me it was Herb Trimp and Hulk became small and all this crazy stuff in the early 70s. That was the Hulk I liked.
Yeah.
And later on, what people did, I said, yeah, that's okay. I also the same thing with Punisher. Like I loved the beginning of the Punisher when I worked on the Punisher in the early 90s, and I'm like, that's the Punisher. And then when we did it with Garth Ennis and Steve with Marvel Knights, I was like, okay, that's the definitive Punisher. Yeah. That's who we should be. And every time they go away from that, I always feel like, yeah, that's kind of like not really the Punisher. Like comic people like that.
Any feelings, Jimmy, on the fact that like Marvel Knights is now like getting a 30th anniversary and like it feels like yesterday to me, but
I remember when I was doing Marvel Knights. It seems surreal, right? Because I think someone mentioned to people my age that the 80s seems like 20 years ago, but that's not the case. So I just, I'm very proud of Marvel Knights because we kind of, I feel like the couple of years Joe and I did it, we kind of made everybody work harder. Like comics shouldn't be that easy. We should make these things better,
Sure. Sure.
And I love that Black Panther became so successful from our books. I love that we got some good Daredevil TV from it. I love how many Punisher movies and TV shows, and even the Inhumans got a TV show. But we just went to the premiere of Thunderbolts because of what we did on Black Widow. You creating Elena, and so that's nice. It was I feel like at least. I think for like a long career, I feel like I've had some really highs, a couple of highs. I mean,
both of you.
I think when we worked on
spinning eyeballs.
Spinning eyeballs. There we go. I just feel like for a long career, managed to have a lot of good, peaks and valleys, and I still feel as vital as I did when I started in 91,
That's good. That's awesome to hear. That is. Yeah. And, we were just talking about your like 5+ year run on Harley Quinn, which is definitely an accomplishment, especially these days. Like nobody does 5 years anymore, it seems.
No.
But you did a long definitive run, well-regarded. It's been a few years. What's left to say with Harley that you were like, yeah, let's do this new Elvira Harley crossover? Like, what was the appeal there?
First of all, we love Harley. We love working on.
It's
on
not.
Harley
it's not like we stopped Harley because we didn't want to do it anymore. We stopped it because we realized we had no life. I mean, we were like
getting totally burned out.
We were doing 3 issues a month.
Yeah.
Right. We were writing 3 issues a month. That is a lot.
Yeah. When we first started it was just the 1 issue. And nobody knew it was going to blow up the way it did. And so they were like, well, we want you to do these issues, but we want you to do specials like 4 times a year. So we were doing a monthly book and then 4 38-page specials. And then when like
bi-weekly.
And then it became bi-weekly plus specials. And we were just getting.
And we were idiots or really smart, however you look at the perspective. We said we don't want other people doing Harley. Just it's only we get to do it, right? Because I didn't want the character to get watered down, and so we did everything. We did everything for those years. Yeah, we marked it, and and then of course we always love Power Girl, so we put her in there, and we put Atlee in there. Like we always, Dan DiDio used to call it the Jamandaverse. He goes, no matter what I give you guys, eventually these characters come walking into your books. And I'm like, that's true. That's fair. But with this Harley Elvira thing, they came to us and they just said, hey, well, look, they're going to do a crossover. And we're like, with who? And they're like, Elvira. And we both started laughing. And I was like,
I can't believe nobody thought of it earlier.
Yeah.
I do see some like personality stuff, but like, was it at all difficult tonally to come up with a story for these characters, or do they just fit?
I mean,
I don't know.
They fit beautifully together.
Okay.
They're great together. It's like it's a buddy book.
They definitely can drive each other crazy.
Yeah.
And Elvira, she has that kind of like sexy innuendo stuff all the time.
Right.
And that's Harley's lane in the bowling alley. You know, she loves that. And so
Harley's crushing on her, of course.
Yeah, but it's really funny. And then by the third issue, we throw another character in there for fun, and it gets completely insane.
Okay.
But like for us, it was just like, okay, we're gonna get to work with Cassandra, and we're gonna, we have a lot of editors on this because we have a Marvel editor, a Dynamite editor, and then Cassandra is like,
and nobody knows her. Nobody knows Elvira better than Cassandra, and she is, of course, I'll write Elvira and I'll think that I'm a genius because I'm like, oh, I just did the best line for Elvira to do, and then like I'll get notes back going, this is what Elvira would really say, and I'm like, oh,
she definitely is having a lot to say about everything we're doing, and then we have to hope that DC is okay with that, because we definitly pushing the envelope. It is
Elvira is bluer than DC.
Yeah, she is definitely bluer than DC.
Right.
That's for sure.
Right. So if you can get it past Cassandra,
yes,
DC's not necessarily going to be throwing up as much roadblocks, we hope.
No,
okay, that's not
right. I mean, they were a little worried about Harley doing some things that were a little risque because they were like, we've never done a book with like a real live fictional person before, and we don't know if they're going to like this. And I'm like, listen, I was like, they're going to be okay with this. I just have to make sure that you're okay with what they are okay with.
I feel like that this is bringing us back to something that from the golden age of comics that like we've somehow lost, when Bob Hope and Don Rickles would just show up in a Superman comic for no reason, They would just that was a thing, and it's really cool to like sort of see something like this being done again.
Well, it's got in tone. It's like, so the tone of it is fun, right? It's fun. It's crazy. It is adult in tone, but it's all ages on another level, right? Like our Harley book. Our Harley book was all ages, but man, I guarantee you, any kid that read that when they're 12, if they read our Harleys again at 25, it's gonna feel like they read something differently. And we have that rule. It's like the Warner Brothers.
The animation, the Warner Brothers animated cartoons from the mid-century.
Yeah, the Bugs Bunny stuff.
Last mid-century.
Yeah, it was aimed at adults, but the humor, kids could love it too. We feel that way with this. I mean, even Amanda's even drawing some pages in each book, so we have two artists doing the book. It's just something for us. All we want to do is create something that will take your brain away from whatever's going on in the world for a good hour and just put you somewhere else where you forget about everything else. We want this to be escapism in the highest power. That
has more value than ever. I love a story that like, it has deep themes, and plenty of the stuff you guys have created has. Sometimes escapism can also be really good for our mental health, and I think right now a lot of us could use that. So this is exciting. Yeah,
we're having a good time, and it is light and heavy and stupid and silly and fun and ridiculous, and it's got innuendos, and it's got, when you see the covers for number 2, there's one that's just like, you're gonna get it right away, like, okay. The covers for one are fun, but there's a cover with Harley holding ice cream in front.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's the most. It's totally Elvira.
Okay.
We're gonna, describing it. You'll see it in solicitation.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much a double, one of those double scoop cones, and holding it in front of. What is it? Is it Harley holding it in front of Elvira?
Elvira.
And and the scoops are right there. And Amanda writes them. She goes, "Can I put cherries on those?" And they're like, "No."
God bless you guys for pushing it like that, because
that's what we have to do. We have to push it so that they can go, no, because then we just don't want a boring book.
Yeah, when you get the book signed, you can ask for little cherries to be drawn on there by Amanda. But there was when we worked back with Dan DiDio at DC, he used to tell us, write it the way you see it. We'll tell you what you can't do. Just write it as crazy as you want. And that became our thing, because we would write like 5 things that were like way out of control, and they would catch 3 of them, you know? And so we learned how to do that. Of course, now they're going to watch this and be checking everything. But, you know, it was a funny thing where Ivy and Harley were kissing, and they were like, you can't have the mouths and this and that. And so we separated them, but no one caught Harley's
ass grab.
Yeah, no one caught her hand on her ass. Like, they were looking right there when we were getting away with stuff down there, you know. So
there you go. Well, you just got to be ambitious, and you know, you're shooting all these shots. They can't block them all.
No, they can't.
No, this sounds like a lot of fun. I definitely think that a lot of my viewers right now are already showing that they're pretty excited by this idea. What else, if anything, do you guys have to plug or mention? Anything we should be on the lookout for that's been announced?
Well, this comes out monthly. This is
yes, of course.
Deadly Tales of Gunslinger comes out every month, and I will be doing it for a while, as Todd McFarlane says. You better stay on this.
Yes. So that's exciting.
I take orders from the boss.
And you've obviously proven yourself on Westerns with your Jonah Hex run. So like,
this is definitely a little different, but it's still a Western, right? And and I just had the last issue of Pop Kill come out, which came out this week. Issue
Incredible
4.
Dave Johnson covers.
Yeah, Dave, and I think J. Scott Campbell did one too for this last one. And then Amanda's got a bunch of covers coming.
I'm doing covers. I really can't write more than 1 book at a time. Like, he's much faster than I am, so
have to pay the bills.
So I can do covers, and I can do like some interiors and some co-writing, but I can't like spin the amount of plates that you can.
Yeah, but you have a bunch of covers coming out. And then we have I'm trying to look around. I did another series for Dynamite. It's a 5-issue series that's all done, but they're gonna let it come out in fall, I think.
Okay.
You know, so I can't talk about it, but it's based on an animated character.
Fair. They've got a lot of them these days.
Yes, okay. And then we just, you know, the Kickstarter, the Painkiller Jane one comes out in 2 weeks. I start shipping that in 2 weeks, and
that's exciting.
Basically Harley and Elvira is our main focus right now, because it is 6 issues, and it comes out August 20. I want to say 22nd, or let me see. No, August 20th is the first issue drop.
August 20th, Wednesday.
Yeah, so if you want your comic store to get it now, you have to tell them now to order it, like, for you, because, you know, we never know what they order these days.
Absolutely. I encourage everybody here, like, all the time. Trust me, your comic store is more than happy to do an order for you. It means they're going to sell a comic. So please, if this sounds interesting, have that conversation the next time you talk to your comic shop.
Yeah, you have to support your local comic shop. That is
absolutely
that's your place, man. You know, they're there for you. So
they are. Folks, I'm so grateful for some of your time this evening. I'm excited to see Elvira Harley Quinn, and excited to see what you do next for crowdfunding and for yourselves. But thank you very much for giving me some of your time.
Thank you. It's
a pleasure, man. This was so much fun.
That's so nice to hear. All right.
Thanks to your crew. You got a great crew of people, listeners there.
We do, but you know what? I think you build the audience that you want in a lot of ways, right? You can't control them, but you and I think you guys have each done that too. So, you know, kudos to you. Lots of kind things saying
we love you. We love you right back.
So there we go. That's a great way to end it.
Take
care. Have a great evening.
Take care.
Bye. Folks. That's one of the best. That's one of the best couples in comics out there. 2 creators I've admired for so many years. To get to talk to 2 of them at once was mildly intimidating, just because it's like, well, you don't want to focus too much on one person. You don't want to like repeat too much of what you've done before. But boy, just they've both done so much for themselves in creator-owned comics, for Marvel and for DC. Like, those big companies owe so much to both of them. Think of how much like Warner Brothers has made off of Harley Quinn. Think of how Marvel Comics, honestly, they were fighting bankruptcy when Jimmy, as well as Joe Quesada, turned things around with Marvel Knights. Just really important people that seem like true pleasurable people to get to know. Really, really charming. Yeah, I agree. They're legit. Tell you what, we've got some incredible news this week. So I think that's what we should do next. Let's get into the news of the week.
We're sitting on top of the story of the century here.
Put an ad on the front page. Cash money for a picture of Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be famous, and I'll make him infamous.
Hi guys, this is April O'Neil from Channel 6 News, and I am here in beautiful New York City.
There we go. Gives me time to get that set up. So, nailed it as always with the thumbnail. Just, trust me, you want to have a successful YouTube channel, come to me. This channel has nearly 15,000 subscribers. Yeah, don't worry about it. We're going to keep going. What's first? We got to talk about this. This just happened today. This just happened like about 2 hours ago, folks. DC Comics completely restructured. So earlier today, Warner Brothers Discovery had one of its quarterly calls for their investors, where, the president typically, or at least the executive board, is going to outline for the investors, it's a publicly traded company, what are we doing to be smart with your investment? What are we doing? Well, our favorite person, a guy that just, was got to be a creative genius, the same way that Einstein was a genius with nuclear physics, CEO and president David Zaslav. I'm being sarcastic. He announced that the company is going to be split into two entities. One of them is going to be like a bunch of TV stuff. One of them is going to own DC Comics. So, yeah, look at this. The Discovery merger hasn't treated WB super well. What is he doing? He strikes again. It's not LexCorp. We'll see if this ends up being good or not, but it's definitely a big change. So one division is going to be for TV stuff, as I said, and the other is more it's being called, for now anyway, the streaming and studios division. That's going to have Warner Brothers TV, Warner Brothers Studios for films, HBO, and of course Max, which is basically the same thing in my opinion, and DC Studios. And DC Comics will be overseen by DC Studios. So up till now, we've basically had comic book companies making the comics, and then back in the day, they would get licensed to get adapted into things. Then eventually big companies sort of owned them and they could sort of make their own adaptations. But now we're sort of switching that up. Now the film studio will control, or oversee anyway, DC Comics. How involved are they going to be? I don't know. All I can say is what the president was saying in this. Zaslav said that they've got a 10-year plan for the DC stuff and that it's going to be movie focused. So I guess the idea here is make sure that the comic company is creating intellectual properties that they can use, storylines that they can adapt, more so than just selling the books. On a purely business level, I sort of get that. I mean, the comics versus like how much profit like a movie studio makes, it's not the same. It's a different size audience. It's a different, but yeah. No word on something like that. Just to be clear, I think DC Entertainment, including the comics, will operate as itself. It will just be overseen by DC Studios. Thank you, Steve. Mr. Steve is here. Hope everyone is doing well. You know it. I got my Zero Sugar Mountain Dew Baja Blast. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat. I can understand being nervous. This is a big new thing. Movie focus doesn't sound great to me either. Yeah, the profit for a publisher is like a rounding error for a movie studio. Kevin's not wrong. Technically, no. Technically, like DC Entertainment is just getting to be a publisher of comics, and they're supposed to do the best they can. And then if the movie studio wants to adapt something, they get to adapt it. But if the studio is overseeing the comics division, you can imagine that there are meetings that would happen at some point where they're like, it looks like, in the third quarter of 2028, we should really have a sci-fi movie because none of the other studios seem to have announced anything like that. So want you to reboot Challengers of the Unknown, but with 4 pretty girls. That's the kind of idea that we could have coming from them. I don't know. I hope this means HBO's animation studios will get revived. I didn't hear any mention of anything like that on the investor call. So I just don't know. Well, I don't know. I do have a certain amount of faith in James Gunn and Peter Safran. I do for making good movies. I don't know if I would have put them in charge of overseeing the comics as well. We're probably going to get more details and more clarification in the days and weeks to come, folks. We don't know exactly what this means. All I'm hearing is, the big ideas from the president of the company. So we'll see where that goes. Don't know when the next mailbag episode will be. I've got about 5 comics that are from the P.O. box, and I usually wait till there's 10 at least. But yeah, good question. We'll see. I know that's my sort of refrain. That's what I say probably way too much, but I really don't know what else. I don't have a hot take on this that's saying this is how it definitively will be, because I think there's a difference between hearing what the president announces is the plan and then hearing the actual details by the people that have to implement it. What if Disney buys DC? I'm sure that Warner Brothers at this point would not really have much interest in selling off DC anymore. The intellectual property is worth a certain amount. At one point they did consider selling themselves to Marvel. I've got an episode about that on Comic Tropes. Yeah. Hey, EJ, on the eve of launching a new Superman movie. Trust me, I think that's why they're doing it. I think that does sort of show that they've got a certain amount of confidence in this movie. They really think that this is going to launch a good new era. I really think that that's what they think. I would love for a good movie to come out of it at least, but who knows? Yeah, that's a great point for people really in the know. Zaslav was looking for some sort of a pay plan of something along the lines of $55 million a year plus all sorts of bonuses, and the investors voted that down. He still makes an insane amount of money for the decisions he makes. Let's see. But the comic for the new movie came out ages ago. What are they going to reboot All-Star Superman? Maybe. I'm going to move forward, but that is definitely some huge news that just happened. And I'm sure that I'll be talking about it more on this show in the weeks to come because, we'll get more details. We don't really have a lot of details right now. As long as I'm talking about DC and entertainment stuff, this also came out. Netflix is doing an extra episode of Sandman Season 2. Yeah. So first of all, this was interesting. Alan Heinberg is the showrunner for Sandman, and he claims that it was always Netflix's plan to do only 2 seasons of the 10 graphic novel collection of Sandman. And that it is not a reaction to, all the lawsuits and allegations against Gaiman. That seems really hard to believe considering the pace they adapted season 1 at. The only reason I'd sort of believe him is Netflix, of course, does have a habit of going like, yeah, two seasons. That's plenty. Just cancel it. Just keep going. Oh, we ended on a cliffhanger. Should we do like a movie to wrap things up? No. They'll keep paying for our service for something else. But that said, there is a season 2 that was, already being filmed before all this stuff came out. So season 2 is going to do 3 sort of releases here. They're going to have 6 episodes come out July 3rd. Then the final 5 on July 24th. And that's going to wrap up the Sandman story, apparently. But they also added an extra bonus episode that comes out July 31st, and that adapts Death, the High Cost of Living. That was that 3-issue limited series back in 93 that focuses on death. As she tries to help this one guy that's, despondent and ready to end it all. And she's like, oh, no, maybe you don't want to. I mean, yeah, at least it's getting a second season if you're a fan of the show. And I thought that it was pretty well done, actually. But I don't know how successful it was or not. I did think that the adaptation was good. I really liked the Dr. Destiny in the Diner episode. That's like a good story in Sandman. And I did like seeing it adapted. I thought that Patton Oswalt as Matthew the Raven kind of felt very similar to what I imagined in my head. And, but it's so hard to enjoy this stuff now that we've learned all this terrible stuff about Neil Gaiman. So it is a good story. Yeah, that was where I first noticed Chris Bachalo. I'm sure he did stuff before, but I remember reading that and going like, oh, I really like this artwork, and big fan of him. Without the art, well, it's still a good story. But yeah, maybe they could do a special episode where they push Gaiman into a dumpster and then push the dumpster down a big hill. Maybe people would probably pay for that. The problem is everything that's not the show or comic. Exactly. It makes it really hard. Like, I think even the biggest fan is really unlikely to tune in to season 2 at this point. It's been tainted. I don't have a whole lot more to say. I don't think any of us are going to either. So I'll keep going. Here's some crazy new Superman merch with that movie coming out. I just picked out 3 of the things that really amused me the most. The first is, like we're going to talk about like this coming out in July. We've got Crocs, Superman Crocs coming out June 26th. I've never owned or worn a pair of Crocs, so I have no idea how much they cost. Is $70 a normal price for Crocs? Because I always thought that they were like super cheap because they're plastic. I had no idea. The Super Crocs. Somebody has to tell me what I see. Yeah, exactly. 70. Killer Crocs. Partner with Batman and make killer Crocs. People would buy that. I just had no idea Crocs were that expensive unless it's the license. We've got Milkbone. You can get a 24 ounce of these treats. Hey, this one at least makes kind of some sense with crypto and all. This one makes sense. So you can get a small box for $5.99. It comes with a free comic book, folks. It's not going to be in great condition because it comes in the box. It's probably going to be a little beat up. It's in a bag, but it's going to be a little beat up. But you get a free comic. If your dog loves Milkbone, why not get yourself a free comic, I guess? Sold. Free comic. And finally, this one looks very nice, but the prices might be a little hard to deal with. Ferris Wheel Press, they make, dip quill pens with custom inks, and they've announced the Superman set of pens and inks. I don't know how much the Superman one actually will cost yet, but the typical pens on their site range between a minimum of $90 up to $250. Normal Crocs are around 20 to 30 euro. Okay, so they're not that expensive. Huh. If your dog loves sawdust, nice to see you, sister. Yeah, happy birthday week, by the way. My sister had her birthday a few days ago. Yeah, it's just going to be covered in all the dust and crap, whatever the hell those are made of. I know. They're not really good treats. They're cheap. Slab a pair of Crocs. Yes. Oh, look at that. Some people wishing my sister a nice birthday. That's nice. DC is going to make a ton of money off of crypto. Totally agree. Totally agree. Because he acts like a nice, normal, crazy dog. And people like animals. I think it's a genius move to include crypto. I have a friend that collects expensive pens, but I don't know how he feels about licensed tie-ins. Ask him if he's got any by Ferris Wheel Press. It looked like they had some nice ones, but it also does look like they do a lot of licensed pens. My comic smells like dog food. Happy belated birthday, Chem Dog. Crypto deserves the money. Yeah, we'll give the money to crypto, but unfortunately, he's not real. I wanted to talk about this because am I crazy, or did that Dune popcorn bucket make movie theaters lose their damn minds? Yes, the Dune movie popcorn bucket was amusing. Haha, it looks like a sandworm. It's a gimmick. It's, whatever. But now, every single week I go to the movie theaters, they have custom popcorn buckets. They are never anything that does anything. They're just like these hunks of plastic that cost a fortune. They cost so much. All right, here we go. Are they going crazy? AMC announced this Galactus popcorn bucket. It's $80. I'm curious. Are any of you out there collecting popcorn buckets? Are any of you out there in like a position where you're like, I would pay $80 for a Galactus head? I feel like that these things are just gathering dust at the movie theaters. I don't know. Like, this looks amusing, and for the right price, I might even consider it. If this was like, I don't know, a bucket of popcorn is probably like, $15. So if this was like, instead of 15, I get the popcorn and you charge me 25, maybe I'd do that, but I'm not paying $80. It has LED lights that you can turn on for his eyes. This is all like a metallic finish that glitters, and it can hold 321 ounces. The thing's gigantic. It's like about 2 feet wide and 2 feet tall. $30 tops, right? Because if you get the popcorn with it, if it will be $5 at a garage sale. Yeah, we might have to wait like a year to 2 years, but you're right. It's going to sell for nothing. Yes. Speaking of just like garbage that costs too much, we used to have some family friends that we would hang out with on the 4th of July coming up. And, we'd all be on blankets at like by the harbor, the harbor. And like our family friends, the kids always wanted to get the cheap stuff that the people in the carts were selling, like, sparklers, and go like, Ma, she got glow-in-the-dark shoelaces. I want some too. That's what this is. Like, there's just going to be kids going like, Ma, that kid got a Galactus. I want one too. And then the dad's like, well, I do love comics. Okay, we'll get. How much is that? $80? Bye. He just like dad vanishes. It's just, this is so much. Also offered. Well, I've listed it here, but I'm just going to show you the images, folks. Get ready. Regal has the Fantasticar. Would you like to eat your popcorn out of this and then put this on your shelf and never do anything with it ever again? Because what, are you going to put your own secret popcorn in it at home and eat out of it? No, that would be ridiculous. How would you even carry this around in the movie theater? If it's like about 2 feet wide and 2 feet tall, you eat the popcorn, 321 ounces of it. And then what do? You just have to hold this in your lap the whole movie for like 2+ hours. You're just holding Galactus's head in your lap. That's ridiculous. If it can fit figures, I'll get it. I get that. Not a sponsor, obviously. Yeah. Hey, I would take AMC as a sponsor, but this is crazy. All right, so you've got the Fantastic Art Regal. Going back to AMC, you could get Herbie. This thing's also gigantic. It's got soda, enough for like a large soda in the head, and in the his chest comes out, and you can fit a large popcorn, and then in the back you can store candy. So he can like, and I guess he actually has posable arms. So you sort of got, this one's at least a little posable, except he's got, a damn cup for a head. Yes, these peaked with the sandworm. This show is such a relief compared to the other media I've been consuming. I know other shows are just focused on the drama between creators, and I'll talk a little bit about some of that, but this is crazy to me. I don't know how much these are. You can get character tins with these knockoff Funko Pops. These are not Funko Pops. They're just like mini statues, plastic statues, and you can get them on top of a cup. And I go, okay, like that at least. This one, as long as it's priced at like, like $5 or $6, I'd consider it, but it's not going to be. That it's going to be like $25 for a soda with this. I don't know. It's probably going to be even more. I need popcorn. I get it. Theaters are trying to make up for declining sales, but I'll tell you, what would probably sell better and help everybody? Sell some damn comic books. Sell a trade paperback of, some of the best Fantastic Four comics. Or sell the actual, like, Marvel Legends action figures there. Don't sell this. Like, it's just crazy. It's insane. I don't know what else to say. So I'm going to keep moving. If any of you get this, you got to take a picture and post it on social. Didn't expect to see this. Since I'm in Marvel, I'm going to talk about this. Joe Mad returning to X-Men. Did any of you see that on the 2025 docket? I don't think so. So in September, Marvel is going to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Age of Apocalypse event. It was a huge storyline 30 years ago. They're going to have a 6-issue series. It's called X-Men of the Apocalypse. It's by Jeff Loeb. These days, that doesn't really excite me. An artist, Simone DeMeo, or Simone, I don't know, but good artist. So how's Joe Mad factor in? One of the artists on the original series is returning to do a variant cover for every one of these 6 issues, Joe Madureira. Joe Madureira returning to comics. This is Madureira's first ongoing comics work since he wrote the final 3 issues of Battle Chasers. That was actually all the way back in 2023. So, yeah. But, I mean, I look at that drawing and that's exciting. That's a good composition. I would, if it wasn't hard to get and it wasn't like priced at more, I would get that cover. So I don't know if that like sells it for me or not. But it's good. Hey, I think we all know Joe Mad just doesn't have any interest in penciling interiors anymore. It's been like, what, like, I don't even remember when he last did the final issue of Battle Chasers. Was it something like 2012? I don't know. He liked your tweet that for him to come back. Waiting, he did finish Battle Chasers, just to be clear. He did finish it. He didn't draw it. He wrote it. He did covers, and he got who's doing Ghost Pepper? Lulu Lullaby. Lulu Lullaby penciled the final 3 issues, so it actually did get wrapped up. Look, in the 90s into the 2000s, Joe Mad was really exciting. It was really exciting. I still love. Is it like heavily influenced by stuff like specifically the Capcom art style for fighting games and stuff? I think so, but that's okay with me. That's okay with me. I got the Blue Beetle ship for my figure collection, and I apologize for nothing. I don't blame you, but was that like, are you talking about like just like, I don't know, a McFarlane Toys thing? Or are you talking, Todd, about it was done for a movie theater cup or something? It was, I don't remember seeing that in the movie theater. I saw the movie, I mean, but I don't remember seeing Blue Beetle merchandise. If they did do interiors, I think that would sell very, very well. Some people are always going to be beloved. Some people are, you know. I think some people just know how to engage as marketers, and somebody like Rob Liefeld, he's really good at bringing people back every time. The Joe Mad bucket, yeah. There was the Wolverine face popcorn bucket for Deadpool, and it was a little funny, but not funny enough for me to spend money on. Yeah, I see all of you mentioning that he was on the Mark Millar podcast. I'm definitely aware. I don't always have time to listen to that, but my editor, Jamie Movanza, edits Mark Millar's podcast, so I try to keep up with at least what's going on there, because I respect Jamie and his hard work. No, he did something after Ultimates. I want to say like a couple issues of Inhumans. I could be wrong, but I think he did something after Ultimates, like about 2 or 3 issues of an Inhumans story. I think it's hard to remember. Anyway, look, he's a popular artist, and I like his style. I wish he did do a regular monthly book. I would read it. Here's another artist that is always beloved. I'll always love Frank Miller on a certain level. I really respect the hell out of him. Frank Miller is doing a ton of sketch cards. So let's see. Card company Topps announced that Frank Miller is doing hand-drawn 1-of-1 Marvel sketch cards that will be included in the upcoming 2025 Marvel Comics Chrome release. That's well, I'll explain. It's a card set that hits shelves this coming week, June 16th. The set has 200 character cards, tons of chase cards of characters and events and stuff, and even autograph cards. And I don't know exactly what those are. I'm not a card expert, and I didn't see a lot of description, but they listed guys like Donnie Cates and Ryan Otley. I was like, okay. But Frank Miller also drew, I don't know how many, maybe like 50 or 60 of the, maybe even as many as 100, but the actual original cards could be in some of these packs. So that would be pretty cool if you were just like randomly like, yeah, what the heck, I'll get a pack of cards, and you got original art by Frank Miller. That would be very cool. That would be very cool. Yeah. You know, now I'm looking at this thing that I grabbed, and I'm trying to see if I can definitely tell which each character is. Top left, I'm going to say that's probably Silver Surfer, right? Obviously, Iron Man, Thor. Who's this? Is this Hulk? Is this Punisher? I don't really know for sure in the top right. Oh, thanks for clarifying, Todd. I'll have to look that up. I do not remember the Blue Beetle popcorn bucket. But if it's the Bug, how else are you going to get something that size? So I sort of get it. So, what else do we have for characters here? Captain America. Is this another take on Thor, but without the helmet? Maybe. Is this another Silver Surfer? Mole Man, Black Panther, Captain America. I would guess Punisher, Spider-Man, Thor, Probably Punisher, a different Mole Man, Spider-Man. I don't know. Could that be Thanos? No, I think that there's like a little tuft of hair here. So, and this seems, yeah, I don't think so. But I don't know. It's not easy to tell. I'd still get excited by a Frank Miller original. Marvel announced its new Stormbreakers. They do this every 2 years. Every 2 years, they announce 8 artists as their Stormbreakers. Basically, a group of what Marvel considers upcoming artists. They get signed to contracts, which guarantees them work for the next 2 years, which is nice. You want guaranteed work if you are doing this. The program started back in 2020. It evolved from their previous Young Guns program, if you remember that. This year's class includes Alessandro Cappuccio. He's well known for Moon Knight and Ultimate Wolverine. Cool. Neto Diaz, who did X-Men Heir of Apocalypse. Simone DeMeo, also X-Men of the Apocalypse and a bunch of other stuff. Juan Frigeri on Ultimates. I like Juan Frigeri quite a bit, so that's cool. Glad that he's going to get regular work. Gurihiru, who is actually 2 Japanese artists that work together. I don't think that there's even any photos of them together. I really liked what Gurihiru did with Superman versus the Klan. Or it was called something like that. Does It's Jeff for Marvel these days. Jonas Scharf, German artist, currently doing Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion. I'll talk about that tonight in a little bit because there are a bunch of comics to use. Yes, they definitely used to call them Young Guns. No, Topps is also doing cards with them. I have... Wait, what? Which one? I have no idea. I thought that they always worked together. I didn't know that. Whatever. I don't know. Jeff Shaw. Love Jeff Shaw ever since God with Donny Cates. So Jeff Shaw's awesome. He's currently doing Red Hulk. And Luciano Vecchio, who is currently alternating certain issues of Uncanny X-Men. Oh, that was the joke. Jeez. That one went over my head with my way too long hair. I think I might have to change this hairstyle. I don't think I like it. All right. Yeah, that's everything I got to say about that. So, Marvel put their Masterworks collection on hiatus. Wasn't expecting that. Marvel Masterworks is what they call their hardcover collection that collects, all their classic stories, but in order, like all the Fantastic Four stories or all the Amazing Spider-Man, etc. Started back in 87. They did have like 2 different like little gaps in the years, but it's been going since I think 2003 at this point, steadily. The Near Mint Condition YouTube channel said that they heard the line is now on an indefinite hiatus, and they have known some of Marvel's moves before because they're friends with one of the guys that's an executive or works in publishing or the printing side of it. It's interesting just because some of these books were 1 volume away from having a complete run. Marvel 2-in-1, Tomb of Dracula, Werewolf by Night. Avengers, Captain America, Daredevil, Fantastic Four, Man-Thing, and Spider-Man were each within 1 to 2 volumes of finishing a run that would basically bring you up to the modern day. So it would be like a natural end point. They had announced, Marvel had solicited originally 2 books, 2 Marvel Masterworks for early 2025. The solicitations have been pulled. There's no word. So, yeah, that's the question. Why did they do this? Did it not sell? I feel like that would be a big surprise because it's been running for a long time. It's been running for a long time, so I'm kind of surprised at this move. Maybe they're just taking a small hiatus to rejigger how they do this because they do sort of restore some of the artwork and stuff. Maybe there's like a new way that they want to do it. I'm just trying to like brainstorm an idea. I just don't know. Yeah, the Epic collections are way more affordable. I agree. So, yeah. What's this? My first U.S. comic was X-Men Masterworks Volume 1 trade paperback, bought back in 93. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, it's possible that some of the cheaper stuff, you know what is selling well are like the compact editions of things. So maybe they want to put more focus on that instead of the hardcovers. But I have to imagine if you've already got, say, 10 or 20 or 30 of these hardcovers, you might want to keep going. That's all. You started with the Masterworks, then you finished with Epic. I get that. Just something to keep our eye on. IDW and Mattel have launched a Street Sharks comic. And that's good news because it means that I can share my favorite Vin Diesel clip with everybody.
This is Boomer. He's got the biggest mouth of them all. He's the whale shark. Say hello to that round mound of Pound and his power slam. Very deadly.
Oh. That round mound of Pound. He's totally jawsome. All right. So anyway, Street Sharks was a 1994 toy line and cartoon, and now it's back in comics form. IDW announced this week it's going to be a 5-issue miniseries. Street Sharks #1 reintroduces readers to the Bolton brothers, 4 half-man, half-shark siblings on a mission to keep their city safe. It's by Stephanie Williams and artist Ariel Medel, with variant covers by artists like Kerry Randolph and Emmanuel Lopez, which is what I've got here. Looks like Vin in the back there. Hey, don't forget me. I'm part of the family. I have to admit, I never watched Street Sharks. I never had a Street Sharks toy. You are the cops, Brian. As opposed to the round mound of Rebound, Charles Barkley. Oh, look at this. I really loved Street Sharks back in the day. I even had one of the toys, a cool lobster. Weren't the lobsters the bad guys? There was like a scientist guy with like lobster bad guys. And then I remember that the hammerhead shark character as the toy shot the front of his head off. They all had an action figure. Action feature. So good luck to Street Sharks. Massive Indies has expanded their distribution footprint. When there was all the drama the last few months with Diamond Distribution, one company came up with a way for independent publishers, smaller companies that couldn't get their own distribution deal with a big distributor like Lunar or Penguin Random House. Massive publisher of books like Heavy Metal and what else does Massive publish these days? It's not coming to me, but whatever. Massive is a publisher. So they would act as a sub-distributor. Like a smaller company could pitch, and then they could like get them, they'd pay a fee. It's a pretty big fee. Oh, the light is getting really bright. I'm glowing. Okay, it got back to normal. Yeah, so the smaller publisher would pay Massive a fee, and then they would get listed within Lunar Distribution's catalog under Massive's section. They basically would sort of give their books to Massive, and Massive would take care of getting it all out there. So anyway, this week, Massive announced that they have plans to reduce their fees and streamline the process to get accepted. If that's something you or someone you know is interested in, you can go to the massiveindies.com website. They've got like an interest form, and apparently, they say that they'll do their best to respond within 72 hours with info on how they're doing all that. Right. Ninja Funk, I remember. Sorry, hold on. Detective Kaiju and Quest that I missed. But yeah, I knew that there were some books that I'd scene. Ninja Funk was fun. Just wanted to pass that on. That the fee went down. I don't know to what, and that supposedly it's easier. Sean Phillips, artist I absolutely love. Had some comics get collected. Actually, you know what? I sort of turned this more into just mentioning two different Kickstarters, but one of them is Sean Phillips. So, Sean Phillips, well known for runs on Hellblazer, Judge Dredd. Personally, I know him for all of his collaborations with Ed Brubaker. Criminal, what do you call it? Reckless, Kill or Be Killed, Fatale, Sleeper, I can't think of any others right now. Whatever. Anyway, before that, he got started super young, like started drawing comics at like age 14 or 15. And he was doing a bunch of comics for DC Thompson, British publisher. So Tombstone Publishing has launched a Kickstarter to collect some of that early work. They're calling it Heartbreaker, The Lost Art of Sean Phillips. 200-page hardcover. So there's the link for that. Second one that I thought looked cool. This one just started. So you've got like most of the month to look at that. Second one, though, one that looks cool to me, and I support it already, Lake Yellowwood Slaughter. It pretends that it's an adaptation of a 1983 slasher movie. Interior art by Gavin Guidry. Great artist. I think a lot of us big fans of him. So there's the link for that one. Lake Yellowwood Slaughter, that ends on this Friday, Friday the 13th. You see what they were doing there. They thought this through. They've got some interesting extras like audio tape adaptations and, different posters and variant covers and stuff. So, yeah. Oh, we already covered that at the beginning of the news section. Sorry. Yeah, Where the Body Was. Boy, that's a really good one. Boy, that's, yeah. So anyway, just two that I thought I'd mention that I like. Matt Hollingsworth called out Mark Millar this week. And people are on different sides of this one. But, yeah, here's how it went down. Here's how it shook down. So this week, it started off, Dark Horse posted this. And on Blue Sky, this is their exact post, that they're reprinting a Chrononauts library edition. They tagged a bunch of the artists on it, like Matt Hollingsworth, the colorist. Matt replied to this post right away saying, "No thanks, don't buy this. I receive no money." He also posted the comment. And he also said to somebody that he only colored it because he was loyal to artist Sean Murphy. And he said that Sean paid him out of his own pocket to make it worthwhile. So, that brings up the question of, okay, so he doesn't get any royalties. That's what he seems to be upset about for the most part. Is that standard? Well, creator-owned and freelance comics don't always pay royalties to colorists and letterers. Can be a work for hire basis contract. Companies like, say, Image. Every contract there is going to be different. But Marvel and DC do offer incentives like royalties ever since at least 2014. I think DC, that's when they started doing it, 2014. Marvel had been doing it a bit before that. Royalties were standard for the artists and the writers, came a little slower for the colorists and letterers, but they're an important part of what makes a comic a good comic, So, exactly, it's kind of strange that that Millar is always talking about how to sell more comics and how to help the industry. He got a huge payout for selling Millar World to Netflix. I mean, this even has in the ad a Netflix logo. So, yeah, you would think that there would be incentives for everybody involved, but apparently not. So I don't know, where you stand. Maybe you think that work should always be work for hire, or it can be work for hire in certain situations. And I think that that's sometimes fair. I think if it's a small sort of indie book and you give a fair page rate, that maybe that is going to be a good deal, just a work for hire page rate. But I think that when you are sort of a name creator and doing a bigger project, I think that it might be smarter to like carve out some royalties. I don't know. It's a surprise. But then this is definitely like divided fandom that, like Matt said this, I think it's fair for Matt to stick up for himself. But a lot of people that follow Mark Millar this world, he's got like a lot of fans on the Comicsgate side of things. So I did see a lot of videos going like, cancel pigs are trying to, end Mark Millar's career. And I was like, I think that might be overstating it. Like, this is one creator that said he didn't have a good work experience. He did say that. And that also, he's not happy about the pay situation. So I think that, like, if you're specifically involved, that's fair to say. So let's see. It's weird because Millar, when selling the rights of one of his comics to a movie studio, usually gives the artist all the money from that. I don't know anything about that. Is that true? I believe you. I didn't know that. You want to hire the best. And I think, like, there are certain colorists out there like Dave Stewart and Tamara Bonvillain and certainly Matt Hollingsworth. Geez, I can think of a million of them. There's so many great colorists out there. You'd think that you'd want to hire them and give them the best contract you could. Who knows? This came out just yesterday. There's going to be an Invincible video game, not like a mobile game. No, like an actual console and computer video game. Skybound Games, and it revealed Invincible Versus. It's a brand new 2D tag fighting game. They announced that, I guess I saw the news yesterday, but it happened last Sunday at Microsoft Xbox Games Showcase. Invincible, I almost got that out. Call it a night. I couldn't get it out. Invincible Versus is going to bring together, a bunch of the main characters. Omni-Man, Invincible, Adam Eve, Thula, Bulletproof. Who else did I see represented in there? I'm pretty sure I saw Conquest. I wouldn't be surprised to see basically almost all the Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh, Rexplode was in there. Yeah. Hey, look at this. I always like a super chat, especially since next month I'm going to have to start paying for my own health insurance. And folks, did you know that it costs $1,000 a month for health insurance? I did not realize that it had gotten that expensive when you get your own private plan. But anyway. Thank you for the super chat. Hope all of Tropes Nation is doing okay and your family is as well. How do people like Hush 2? I lapsed for a year or so and I just discovered Batman Full Moon with the amazing Subachart. I've heard good things about Batman Full Moon. I've heard good things about Batman Dark Patterns by Dan Waters and Hayden Sherman is supposed to be excellent. I haven't heard too many people excited with Hush 2. I bought the third issue of it last week and I'm dropping it. It's just not giving me anything. Yeah, it's so much that I like up till now I've been, it's more like $200 a month because I was on a company plan. My wife she worked full time. Unfortunately, she worked for a consulting agency that works exclusively for government agencies. And obviously almost all of them have had their funding shuttered or frozen. So her company had to lay off tons of people, including her. So we lost our health insurance. We're going to have to buy private health insurance. $1,000 it's so much, but what can you do? I can't risk not having it. So, So what it'll probably do, since I'm mentioning it, here's how it might change Comic Tropes, my other channel. I'll probably end up taking a sponsor here and there. I basically turn almost all of them down unless it's it seems good or, it's for a comic or something. But most of them I turn down, but I'm probably going to have to just take one a month, and then I'd probably be okay. We'll see. Thank you for the super chat again. Appreciate it. It is what it is. Let's get back to talking about this Invincible video game. I love Invincible. This thing looked bloody, and the environments looked like they got wrecked. So if you're into fighting games, this looks like a fun one. It looked good to me. It's coming out next year, PlayStation 5, Windows, Xbox Series X. Oh, and as far as voices go, I definitely heard at least J.K. Simmons as Omni-Man. So maybe they'll get the full voice cast from the show. I couldn't tell just by listening to the trailer. I was like, is that... Geez, I can't remember the names of the actors that play like Adam Eve and Invincible all of a sudden. Stephen Yeun and Gillian Jacobs? I think that I've got that right. Oh, that's fun. If Dinosaurus isn't initially a playable character, you have to figure if this does well, there's so much they could do with downloadable content. Like there's so many characters in the Invincible universe, heroes and villains. I think it could be a really, really cool. Yeah, Simmons did do the voice of Omni-Man in Mortal Kombat, just to be clear. Yeah, he did. Super Mech Suit Debbie. That would be fun. Battle Beast is overpowered. By that logic, so are most of the Mortal Kombat games. You just go whatever. For some reason, they're all equal. And I don't know. It looked fun. Exactly. Think of that. Tech Jacket, Wolfman, all the Guardians of the Globe, Alan the Alien, Battle Beast. I don't know. There's just so many characters that they could do. Robot. Could be a lot of fun. David Marquez is launching his own Image comic. Good for you. That's awesome. David Marquez has definitely made a name for himself over the last 10 years, especially doing a lot of big stuff at Marvel. All new X-Men, Invincible Iron Man, Civil War 2, Avengers with Jason Aaron. These days, Uncanny X-Men with Gail Simone. Well, this week, there were new details released on his upcoming creator-owned comic at Image, The Unchosen, which comes out July 9th. Specifically, it's a 4-issue, I guess we'd call it miniseries, written and illustrated by Marquez. I love it when somebody takes on a new role in comics and does their own thing. I'm always excited for them and hope for the best for them. The official description of the story. 13-year-old Ada wakes up in a city laid waste by a massive explosion, a scene of devastation that she caused. Pursued by rival forces wielding incredible powers, she must discover who truly wants to help her, who wants to control her, and the truth behind her own mysterious past. Great artist. Hope that the story is awesome. Wish David all the best on this, as well as the team that he's got working with him. Let's see. I'm excited for this. All these talented artists should get the chance to write and draw their own creator-owned miniseries. It is, in my opinion, not talked about enough what an incredible accomplishment Image Comics is, and the opportunities it has now given to so many artists and writers to tell their own stories and own them. Just incredible to me. Creator-owned stuff before 1992, but it was always unique, weird little deals and stuff. And to just have a company where everybody gets to own their own stuff is really, really cool to me. It's really cool. And I just am amazed because I'm old enough that I grew up with plenty of time before Image existed. And Image has been around now over 30 years, which is awesome. And it's very standard. It's like a big part of the industry that people think about. But I just think it's amazing what they've done. And they really changed the industry to open it up for creator-owned deals at other publishers that might not have been in a position to want to do that before. So just really cool. Really, really cool. Oops, sorry. Have I heard about their anniversary issues? No, I guess I didn't. I don't know about that. Fantagraphics, folks, is reprinting the Eternaut. I'm definitely going to take a moment to mention that because this is a book that I reviewed and discussed and tried to analyze many years ago on Comic Tropes, and is a great, great comic. There's so much to recommend about it. It's a great story. It's great art. It's an amazing history. It's very, very cool. Obviously, it's now very well known because it got a live adaptation on Netflix that did well, which is cool. And then a lot of people were like, oh, I wanted to read the comic. It's sold out. It's been out of print for a while. So Fantagraphics announced that they are reprinting the Eternaut. Looks like it might be in sort of a bronze or a gold, whereas the one I got, I'm pretty sure it was silver. It's by Hector Herman Esterheld and Francisco Solano Lopez. It won the 2016 Eisner for Best Archival Collection when, Fantagraphics put out their first version. Just got adapted for Netflix, as I said. Story, if you don't know it, if you didn't watch the adaptation or you didn't read the comic or anything, this isn't spoilery. This is what the premise is. It's about a group of survivors of an alien invasion in Buenos Aires. And now it was originally serialized from 57 to 59. Argentine comic, Argentine creators. Beyond telling a cool sci-fi story that goes in some escalating, strange directions that you definitely don't necessarily expect, it also was a commentary on the politics in a country that was going through some massive upheaval. That's definitely fair to say. They were dealing with all sorts of effects from the Cold War, to put it lightly. It's a lot to go into. I have read some of Mort Cinder by Esterheld and Breccia. Big fan of Alberto Breccia. Great art. That could be something that I'd talk about someday, but I haven't read all of it. Wow, that's a tremendous bit of praise. I will say it's a bit of a cultural touchstone in Argentina. A lot of people know about the Eternaut. It was even like remade, like Esterheld did a remake, I want to say in the 70s. And so you'll see this image of one of the main characters, Juan Salvo, walking around in, a diving suit. You'll see this like done as graffiti still to this day. But to know more about it, I really recommend watching my episode about it because there's a lot of history behind it too. Anyway, Fantagraphics published the graphic novel, the one that I have. It's a 12-inch by 9-inch hardcover with a slipcase. The new edition, I assume, is going to be the exact same. It's going to be available November 24th. If you go to the Fantagraphics website right now, you can pre-order it. They said they do expect it to sell out. So, they're going to get all the pre-order numbers. They're probably going to publish some more. But, the original sold out before there was even any mention of, say, like a Netflix adaptation. It's probably going to sell out again. Not to my knowledge. It's one I'm quite proud of. I mean, it's earlier in my YouTubing career, so maybe it's rougher in terms of like the editing is more basic, I'll say. I think the commentary is going to be fairly equivalent to what I still do. I don't know if I was doing like, little tropes on the board or anything, and I probably recap a lot about it, but it was because when I did it, it was not very well known. So to bring people up to speed, you had to recap a lot. Anyway, just wanted to pass that on because it is a great comic. I think it's a blast. It's really interesting to learn about. And I think if you haven't read it, it could take you down some interesting rabbit holes of exploring sci-fi ideas, of exploring writing and art by this team, and exploring some Argentine history. Daniel Day Kim is adapting the comic Butterfly, and it got a premiere date. So Prime Video announced just this Thursday that Butterfly, which is a spy thriller comic, is going to premiere on Wednesday, August 13th, with all 6 episodes. It stars and it's produced by Daniel Day Kim. It's based on Arash Amel's Boom Studios comic. And the story, really high level, follows a U.S. intelligence agent stationed in South Korea hunted by an assassin. Hold on, we got to pause because I just got a super chat. This looks like a fun show. I want to acknowledge something. Let's see. John Dorsey, very generous super chat. Thank you, first of all. And let me see what it says. Since I can help the very best comic book channel on the platform, I want to chip in. We all got to grind it out in this life, and I want to pay back what you have contributed to my enjoyment of the best print medium ever. That's nice of you to say, because I agree. Comics are awesome. All the thanks I need is for you to keep being you. Well, you get more than that. Like, I'm super grateful. That really helps a lot to get stuff like that. Thank you for the generosity. And I hope I can. I will let you know that aside from, like this show, I've got 2 things in the works. One is a trash movie bonanza that Jim and I have already recorded, and Jamie is hard at work on shaping into something watchable and entertaining. And I'm currently editing an episode about Joe Kubert, a deep dive into Joe Kubert, which is just taking a little longer than I expected. Not because of like the content or anything, but literally because I'm dealing with adhesive capsulitis, which is also known as frozen shoulder. And like my arm, like it's painful now, but I don't have to like keep it in a typing position or a mouse position. When I have to do that for like 2-3 hours at a time, it just becomes agony, and I have to give myself a break. So I'm working a little slower than I would love to. I just have to take breaks, or I just cannot physically complete the task. It's driving me nuts. Oh, cool. Love that you guys are excited for that. I think it's going to be a good one. All right. I think I've got one last piece of news here. So there's an auction house facing a massive comics lawsuit. This is one of the owners of the auction house, and I'll explain what's going on. So back in 2020, a gentleman named Bernie Arsenault filed a lawsuit in federal court. It names Kevin Bruno, Travis Landry, I believe this is Travis, and Ashley Tortolani from Bruno and Company Auctioneers as defenders. Arsenault said he hired the auction house to sell 42,400 of his comic books back in 2018. And he did that because he'd seen Landry multiple times on Antiques Roadshow as an expert appraiser. That's what convinced him this is the right auctioneer house for me to sell my comics. So Arsenault claims that his collection was worth $1 million. And the deal was going to be something like the auction house would sell them bit by bit. They said it would take several years. They would keep 25%, give the 75% to Arsenault. He thought that was fair. They entered a contract. And for the first 2 years, it worked well. He was receiving money, but it stopped in 2020. And then Bruno and Company now is claiming that the collection was only worth $20,000, and they can show that they've already paid Arsenault at least $10,000 in the first 2 years. So anyway, Bruno and Company entered bankruptcy in February, and so now the case is making the rounds in the media. They were on TV on Antiques Roadshow. They went bankrupt. Looks like they owe this guy potentially a lot of money. The guy's like, they didn't give me my comics back. I only got about $10,000. I feel like it's worth about $1 million. It's not what I expected. That is a huge difference. We'll see if anything shakes out from it. But yikes. Yeah, exactly. Heritage deserves this level of scrutiny. Any auctioneer does. But can you imagine, let's just say that Arsenault's appraisal of his own collection was way off. And instead of $1 million, it was only worth $500,000, half of what he said. He still only got $10,000. You know, let's just say it was worth a quarter what he thought it was worth. That's pretty far off. Yeah, they are suing and counter suing. So just seems dramatic. Hopefully there's some follow-up over the next days and such. Let's go over to comic book reviews. This is a good question. Is Heritage sketchy? I would say the thing about Heritage that seems to be potentially sketchy is that they've been accused of like artificially raising their own prices, like having other people bid on things that don't intend to buy to like bring the cost up. But I couldn't speak to how accurate that is. Those are just things that I have read about Heritage in the past. So I don't know. I would say that like auction stuff in general is definitely something to be wary about. Arsenault has so many copies, first issues of Spawn, Youngblood, and the X-Men. Not sure if the Spawn and Youngblood ones are worth that much. All right, so let me bring up a second camera real quick so that I can show you guys the comics that I picked up this week, and we'll see if I can impart any knowledge on what you might want to invest your money in. That isn't really crisp, is it? I don't know what to do about that. Is that a little better? I think that's a little better. So, first up, I'll talk about Imperial. I almost always give comics by Jonathan Hickman a chance because I've enjoyed some of his stuff a lot. I really liked Jonathan Hickman's East of West that he did with Nick Dragotta at Image. I liked his 2 runs simultaneously on Avengers that led up to Secret Wars, as well as, honestly, some of the stuff he set up even before that in his Fantastic Four run. I bet that the movie will use a lot of his Fantastic Four ideas. I thought that House of X and Powers of 10 was incredible. And then, like, I didn't love where all the X-Men stuff sort of went after that. It just got a little repetitive, but that is, I don't completely blame Hickman for that. And sometimes I don't love everything he's done. He did an event to like sort of turn cosmic entities in Marvel into like sort of more human people. It was called Gods. Didn't really love that one. Imperial at its like highest level, it's a murder mystery, but it's all to do with the characters that are in space. So, you know, Star-Lord and his father, Jason, Nova, the people from the planet Sakaar from World War Hulk, Kree, Skrull, Shi'ar, Imperial people, all of that stuff. But there are world leaders, planet leaders that are being killed off. And one of them is one of Hulk's sons. If you don't know, Hulk, during World War Hulk, when he was on another planet, he fell in love with a woman, and he didn't realize she was pregnant, and he rocketed home, and she ended up having 2 sons. One of them is Scar, which is just like another Hulk, and one of them was, I forget his name, but he's the one in this that became the leader of the Sakarans, and he's been killed. So Hulk goes into space with his friends, I'll call them. I mean, Jen Walters' She-Hulk is his cousin, and Amadeus Cho is, you know, also basically a Hulk that like worships Hulk. But then we jump around to some of like the political drama. What was his son's name again? Hero Kala. Hero Kala was one of Hulk's sons, and he's been poisoned and killed. There are these like, there's like a council for all these alien races, and they've sent their medics out, and they're investigating it and stuff, like trying to figure it out. Star-Lord's father, Jason, if you don't know, is kind of like an egomaniac that's always trying to take over the galaxy. But his daughter is a world leader, and she's been poisoned. She's in cryostasis right now. So, Star-Lord and Nova and Hulk, they're all running around. All the evidence points to Black Panther's Wakandans as the culprits of this. And in fact, things go kind of to crap in this. As a Wakandan sniper kills the scientist that knows who bought the viruses, seems to kill Jason, Star-Lord's dad, and a bunch of other people go missing. Here's the only thing. So, like, yeah, where's that supposed killer? Yeah, the Wakandans, because of their vibranium is used for Stargate portals. I know this is so much lore to hit you guys with. This is so much. I'm realizing. This certainly looks like, a Wakandan, and they used vibranium bullets to kill everybody, all these world leaders. So everything is pointing to Wakanda being the villains. There are two interior artists, Beowulf, Ibn Coelho and Federico Blee, because it's done in chapters with different characters. Planet Hulk is fantastic. There's some good stuff in this. Here's the only thing. Could it be like a fringe group of Wakandans? Maybe. As I get older, I can't help but look at every story, whether it's a movie, a comic book, a novel, whatever it is. I can't help but look at it structurally. And if you're going to do a murder mystery and play fair, like lay in some clues of who it could be, as well as some red herrings, you kind of have to introduce who the killer is within the first act of like maybe a 3 to 4 act structure, right? And we don't really get introduced to Black Panther in this issue. So it would be kind of unfair if he ends up being the bad guy, or his people even like, just like a fringe group of Wakandans. So I don't think that would be fair. Out of like who's left, like who's villainous? Ronan the Accuser from the Kree, Super Skrull from the Skrulls. But the Krees and the Skrulls have both sort of been wiped out over the years, and like only now they operate together to keep each other alive, and they're led by Hulkling, the Young Avenger. He's a good guy. It's really unlikely that like he has bad guys in his group, to be honest. So I would say this. I don't know anything, but I would look very strongly at Jason, the father of Star-Lord, who's been a bad guy in the past. At this point, he's supposedly reformed and everything, but and he gets shot and killed, right? But this is a world with shapeshifters, isn't it? And is his daughter actually dead? No, she's in cryostasis. So was she poisoned? Yes. But is she dead? No. I look at all of this and I go, I think that Jason has some sort of a plan. And what it's going to do is it's probably going to break up, if I had to guess, Imperial will probably break up this sort of galactic council, and it will just mean that, the Shi'ar and the Kree and the Skrull and all these other different races that we know are probably going to just be out for themselves at the end. I think it's just that. I think that might be the goal. So much lore I didn't know. And I'm trying to give you the highest of high levels. I don't know where Scar is in this, but I'm not sure. Yes, I'm using the Agatha Christie rules of, if you're going to say one of these people is the killer, that killer has to be somebody that we were at least introduced to. And you have to go, okay, they've done everything they can to shift the blame and give themselves a good alibi. Jason has a great alibi. He's dead. He's shifted, but that's who I'm leaning towards. I could be wrong. I'm just throwing it out there right now. Somebody else could go like, Chris, I'm still going to use your rules. And I think it's Super Scroll because you've missed all these books. But I'm just taking this at face value. The lore just gives us the backgrounds on the characters. The story is in this. No, none of the Stargates go to Egypt planets. Basically, all these races can create these jump points, these the Stargates, but to mass produce them, vibranium is what helps. And that is super valuable now to the galaxy, and that's what's helped Wakandans, who are already technologically advanced, get into space. It was Jarvis because it's always the butler. We haven't seen Scar since the Gamma Flight mini post Immortal Hulk. Okay. Yeah, I can't keep track of all the characters. Minor quibble. I thought they were pronounced Shi'ar. Am I wrong? I was saying Shi'ar. You know what? You might be right. You know the best way to sort of get a definitive answer? What do they call them on the X-Men animated cartoon? I really don't know. I grew up reading the comics, so I just sort of came up with Shi'ar, but if on the cartoon they say Shi'ar, then that would be right. That would override me. It's interesting. It's an interesting murder mystery, I'll say. It's an interesting murder mystery. Do I care that much about where these cosmic alien factions end up by the end? Not really. So I guess it's important to have added the Hulk and given him a personal role in this. Just to be clear, Hulk is kind of devastated by this because he's like, I never got a chance to sort of make peace and get along with my son. He kind of hated me because he thinks I abandoned him. And I didn't mean to abandon him. I always thought that there was going to be an opportunity to like make this right. I'm pretty sure the Brood does not operate as part of like this galactic council because they are like parasites, basically. I don't think that there'd be a way for them to get along with everybody. Shi'ar is how I pronounce it, but I just guessed. It's Shi'ar on the cartoon. Okay, so there we go. Shi'ar. Generic, and it's not that generic since there's so many characters that we have had historically in Marvel. That's part of what I like about this is there's a scene in this where somebody goes, the killer was one of you, and he points out to like all the alien races. And I actually did something that I don't always do. I paused and went like, okay, I want to look at everybody. See, this is Jason going like, the killer is one of you. And I'm going, okay, Kree, there's Super Skrull, there's some generic Skrulls, there's Hulkling and his consort, boyfriend, Wiccan, there's Ronan, I forget these like sort of recorder guys, but I've seen them. There's Deathbird and Gladiator, these horse-faced aliens that I've seen in the past. I'm like, okay, these are all like, bits of Marvel history, and I kind of like that. This obviously takes place in the near future of the Philip Kennedy Johnson current run. Yeah, it doesn't fit super cleanly with where Hulk is right now, because Hulk is more just sort of like wandering with this girl that he's taking care of, and he's being hunted by supernatural threats. It doesn't really fit that he could just leave that and go into space. So it probably does take place in like shortly after that run, but whatever. Chris Claremont used a bunch of stuff from Star Trek for the Shi'ar M-type planets and other stuff. Yeah. Is there a new Quasar? I don't know who Quasar is these days. Last I saw, it was a lady, but I don't know her name. I don't know. Yeah, that's it. The horsey aliens are from Power Pack. Thank you, Kevin. So I kind of like that stuff. I knew I'd recognize them. The horse aliens are from Power Pack. Yeah. What else came out this week? Boy, here was one I wanted to like, and I'm not against it, but I thought it was only average. Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion. I mean, this is Miles go into the new Ultimate Universe. You know, he's a character. He's kind of him and Maker are basically the only substantial characters to have survived the original Marvel Ultimate Comics run. I got to pause, though, and say, is this a misprint? Did anybody else get this comic? Because I was reading this and I go, what is this supposed to be, like a flashback? It's not a flashback, but it looks so faint. And then all these pages look fine until I get to like its opposite page over here. And there's no text in like the bubbles. And there's no text. So I think that this and this are a misprinted page that don't have the black color registered. Am I wrong? That's a misprint, right? Because I'm like, they didn't do this on purpose, did they? Like Miles can't hear what they're saying. I go, it's a mistake, but I don't know if it's a mistake for everybody. Miles is in 616, to be clear. This is a story where, see this like glowy object here? Maker is a bad guy. He's the Reed Richards from the original Ultimate Universe, but he became evil. He lost the rest of the Fantastic Four. He warped his brain. He became a supervillain called Maker. He went and corrupted this current Ultimate Universe, and he went throughout time and prevented superheroes from becoming superheroes. And he gave Miles like this magic card that could take him to that universe. And he was like, I feel like, as the only other survivor from our universe, I owe you this. And Miles was like, no, thanks. Well, now his baby sister accidentally somehow got a hold of it, and it transports her to the universe. So Miles chases after her. Miles is in the 616. And he says that his memories are like very fuzzy about the original universe. Let's see. You have a misprint that you can sell for thousands of sandals, millions of Crocs. It does look cool. So at first I thought it was like intentional, but like it was like some sort of flashback. But then by the last page, I go, no, it's wrong. So anyway, here's what's fun about it. First of all, Miles enters this universe and he instantly bumps into the Ultimate Spider-Man, Peter Parker and his son. If you don't know, Peter Parker's son wears a suit that duplicates Spider-Man's powers in the Ultimate Universe. And like, what's fun is that his son, Ben, is super impressed with Miles because Miles has a bunch of experience at this point. And he like kind of, he's a very good Spider-Man. And like, Peter's like, well, I do cool stuff too and stuff. You're my son. You should be impressed by me. And he's like, I am, but like, this guy's pretty cool. Like, he's doing electric shock punches and taking out like new supervillains super quickly. So that's that part's fun. But then as far as like the story, I'm like, he doesn't seem to do anything smart, Miles. Miles doesn't seem to do anything smart to find his sister. He just sort of literally goes with the other Spider-Men building to building in New York, looking in people's windows for her. And I'm like, doesn't make sense. Look for some leadership. Look for a scientist that can help you. I know Jimmy Hudson gets forgotten. He also survived from the Ultimate Universe. Anyway. Yeah, it's interesting seeing Miles go from being the less experienced Spider-Man to, in this specific case, he is the more experienced Spider-Man. And I liked it. Exactly. Yeah, I just got bored with, I was like, this investigation is dumb. They're just like swinging around New York and the conversation between them is fun. But this is like, it doesn't go anywhere. I'm like, what is this? What is this? All the different villains sort of hear about somebody coming in and they're like, oh, they used Maker's technology. This is the Maker's Council. He's established supervillains throughout the world to, like, rule the planet. And so, like, they're all going to be coming after Miles. And that's cool. But, yeah, this cover is like, oh, cool. Spider-Man, the Ultimates, the X-Men, the Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Wolverine, Ultimate Black Panther. We don't see any of these folks. We only meet Ultimate Spider-Man and his son and Miles. Fair. Phrasing, what did I say? Hate to be cynical, but it feels like this was made solely to put out another Spidey book on the shelf this month. I just thought that there was going to be, maybe it'll build to something, but Miles and Maker do have a connection. So there's a personal thing there. But Maker is currently in stasis. He isn't a threat right now. His Maker's Council, okay, I get it. They'll go up against Miles. They'll sort of build themselves up. It builds up the threat of Maker for down the road in books like Ultimates. It structurally, where they're going, makes sense. This particular issue had a fun part of the Spider-Man interacting, and then a really slow, like, draggy middle act where just nothing was happening. It does end on a cool note. I'm not spoiling that for you. So I would say, like, pretty good first act, pretty good final act, really draggy middle. So I was like, maybe I'll stick with it, but Let's see. Wait, if Miles is from the Ultimate Universe and got transferred to the 616 universe, how does Miles have a sister? His parents had another kid. She's a baby. Miles has been in the Marvel universe proper, 616, for a long time. Like, the last Ultimate Universe is over 10 years ago. Like, way over that. So Miles has been around and has had, like, developments in his own title. I too have a draggy middle. Thank you. It basically sort of, Miles and his family came to the 616 and reality was overwritten as though they've sort of always been there, but their memories are a little fuzzy. Like, Miles sort of has an idea that this wasn't the way it always was, but functionally it's like he's always been in the 616. No, his whole family got brought over. I forget how now. This is a miniseries. This is not a one-shot, though. This is a miniseries. So there's more to the story. That's why I'm not just saying, like, oh, I'm going to crap all over it. Because there's more to it. Like, I think Miles will meet sort of all these Ultimate characters. And that's kind of cool. I think he'll acquit himself pretty well. They could have gone with Peter Parker coming over. But I think it's more interesting showing Miles go over. I would just say that for the first issue, okay, good. We've got a totally good hook for getting things started. Okay? It's fair. It plays fair. It's got some stakes for Miles as a character. I would just say that, like, then things start dragging and getting repetitive for a lot of the time in the middle. Here's one I gave a shot at and also started great, and then I got so bored with it. Galactus versus Ghost Rider is one of these titles where J. Michael Straczynski just throws together characters that otherwise have never really interacted. But it's basically a what if. So I don't know why they didn't brand it what if, because basically it starts, to be clear, in the late 70s in New York City. Look, we've got the Twin Towers still. And there's Ben Grimm, and he bumps into Ghost Rider. Look, I'll say that Juan Ferreira does really cool, funky art in this. I like the art. I definitely do. I like what he's doing in Ninja Turtles. I love his take on Ghost Rider. This is the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider. Anyway, it sort of establishes how Ghost Rider works. Ghost Rider makes you feel guilty for the bad things that you've done. Okay. And then like Ben Grimm actually is like really smart. And he's like, hold on, I want to have a conversation. He's like, and he has this conversation with Johnny Blaze, and he goes, do your powers, like the penance there, do they have like a limit or anything like that? And he's like, as far as I know, no. Like I can make anyone, feel penance for their actions. And he's like, well, look, the Fantastic Four has been going up against Galactus for a while. Galactus eats whole planets, but we can't seem to stop him. He's like, then again, maybe it's because we try to fight science with science. He goes, you're supernatural. He's like, maybe you should stop Galactus from eating planets. And Johnny Blaze is like, that's probably a good idea. Maybe I should. So he just sort of drives up onto the next missile going into space and sort of possesses it, and he rides a rocket ship, and he confronts Galactus, and he grows to Galactus proportions and stuff. I was like, all right, this is cool. The idea of supernatural versus like God, I was like, this is a good idea. This is a damn good idea. But then it like hits a lull. Blind people are immune to his penance stare. Yep. Super chat. Does Galactus use Ghost Rider's fire to make popcorn? Yes. That's specifically. And Ghost Rider cuts his head off and says, I'm going to sell you in a movie theater. How do I review the rest of this without just spoiling it? Let's just say things don't go as planned, and it ends up becoming like half of the issue is just a conversation with the watcher on the nature of the universe. And sort of, and I like some of the ideas there, by the way, because look, if we think about ourselves on a cosmic scale, the amount of time we exist, the impact that we have on the universe, it's basically not there, right? But that's not really how we should look at those things. That's like a really scary way of looking at things. Instead, we should go like, well, what happens from my perspective? I meet people and I have conversations. I learn things. I get to taste great food and smell pretty flowers. I get to hear incredible music. These things do matter because they do happen. They happen to us. And so anyway, on some level, that's what it becomes, is more of a conversation about that. Okay. I was kind of like, when it says Ghost Rider versus Galactus, I want to see them fight. I want to see, and that's not really what we get. That's not really what we get. Yeah, that's fair. Max Immortal is a really interesting comic. I think people forget how smart Ben is. Yeah, I know, exactly. He's both a college graduate and a test pilot. Like, Ben is smart. It looks pretty dope. I'm picking this up. I like the ideas behind it, and I like the artwork. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, Ferreira does some cool, slightly funky stuff that I don't think you always get in a Marvel comic. It's different, and I like that. But anyway, it just didn't quite deliver what's on the tin. Whereas if they just said like Ghost Rider meets Galactus, that might have been more fair. I really like what Ryan North's done with Ben and his Fantastic Four. The issue with him and the dog was a great showcase of his smarts. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Where he used his logic of going like, okay, what do I know about this surreal situation I'm in? What can I tell is real, and how do I reason my way out of it? It was great. I totally agree. And I like him having a pet dog. He definitely seems like a dog person. The good art is enough for me. Then you'll probably enjoy this. It's not bad. It just doesn't quite give you what I expected, I would say. Let's see. Those pages have like 10 words of dialogue. That level of diluted storytelling bugs me because I don't feel like I'm getting my money's worth. I sort of agree. This is a one-shot, just to be clear. So it's one and done. Can't quite recommend it personally. I'd love to recommend to you guys G.I. Joe, but I also know that it's a hard sell when you're at issue 317. I'll just say G.I. Joe is still told in a classic way where every issue does give you basically a complete adventure. And I care about the characters, and they do cool new things. This particular one has things like cyborgs upgrading Dr. Mindbender to be sort of an embedded Cobra agent for them. And it has G.I. Joe's ninjas dressing up undercover as a Crimson Guard family to live in Cobra's town and infiltrate them. So it's all about characters infiltrating each other. And Larry Hama himself redesigned Dr. Mindbender. Larry Hama's the writer of all this. So now Dr. Mindbender isn't just a smart guy. He's also been upgraded with cyborg technology so he can fight really well now. And the idea of this cowardly egomaniac with a huge brain, like just he's a smart guy. I mean, not like a physically large brain. The idea of him now being able to fight, that could throw things off in the future. I always have fun with this book. I think it's cool that Larry Hama is no longer obligated to just insert whatever toys are coming out, but that he can redesign characters himself. I think that's cool. This is the series I always read first the week it comes out. I do too. It's always fun. So I just thought I'd throw it out there again. Oh, he does. To be clear, I mean, I talked to him in the interview, and he says he does not like map out big arcs. He sits down and he writes page 1 to page 22, just fills in what he thinks the characters would do, and he comes up with it on the spot. But it moves, and it always gives you something good. Love this book. Love this book. Here was another really satisfying issue of Radiant Black. Issue 34, but the last couple of issues has basically been like starting somewhat fresh. Marshall is this guy, Radiant Black. He's always sort of been an underachiever. So some of the book is him trying to figure out like dates and how to make money, like with the Radiant Black name. And the other half is him sort of doing his obligation to fight, guys that are a threat. And the new threat is this guy called Jaeger, who believes that Radiant Black is going to doom the world. That's all that really matters ultimately. So yeah, it's got plenty of action and fight scenes that are a blast. It's got creative uses of superpowers, which is fun to play with. And it's got like a good mix of personal drama and stuff. So yeah, I do recommend this. It also sets up that this villain might be able to hurt Marshall on a more personal level than your typical villain. So I like Radiant Black a lot. I'm still waiting on the crossover of the century, Radiant Black. Yes. It's such a cool magic trick when comics can tell a long, ongoing story and still give a complete story in each chapter. Spy Family does a great job of making each chapter satisfying. I think that manga has a bigger pressure to do that because they get published in an anthology where people vote, and if they don't have the votes, their strip gets cut. It's much more immediate, the impact, than these American comics. Yeah, it does. It has a solid storyline. Anyway, 34 has been a blast. Basically, ever since they had this huge event in Radiant Black that involved like, you know, a second parallel world, and two different people were operating as Radiant Black. And every month they released 2 consecutive issues that were at the same time, but on different timelines. And that ended. And ever since then, they've sort of like had a fresh jumping on point. It's been really satisfying the last 2 or 3 issues. If you heard about anything in comics this week, you probably heard already about the Marvel Knights 30th anniversary book, The World to Come. This is written by Christopher Priest, who famously did a great run on Black Panther during Marvel Knights in the 90s, and art by Joe Quesada, who, of course, was half of the duo that oversaw the Marvel Knights franchise, along with the guest that we had tonight, Jimmy Palmiotti. This takes place in a somewhat near future, 16 years after some sort of event, so maybe as many as 20 years from now. And it starts with a future T'Challa, Black Panther, dying. But then the story starts jumping back in time to tell us how we got to this point, okay? The artwork by Quesada is some of the most detailed that I've seen in his career. Also uses some of the most, you know, dark blacks and shading that I've seen him use. So I really like the artwork in this, first of all. I think it's really, really engaging. I like it a lot. I like the colors in this book a lot. I think that they really pop. This is it's an impressive idea. But let's just go ahead and get to what everybody's talking about, okay? And that'll like tell you whether this is a book you want to like read about or not. So in this, Black Panther is having a fight with somebody that like is trying to claim the throne. You know, they're having their traditional ceremonial battle in the waterfalls in Wakanda. And we find out through the dialogue that this guy in a Black Panther costume here is Black Panther's son. And later in the story, he gets unmasked, and this is Black Panther's son, Katama. Katama is a white kid. So, huge question, like, who did Black Panther hook up with to get a white son? And it's wild to think that, like, Wakanda has a white guy trying to become the king of an African nation. Keep in mind, this is written by Christopher Priest, a black guy, and a guy who knows how to do, you know, big story twists that get people talking. Yeah, exactly. He could be adopted. He could just be mixed or something. I don't know. But yeah, Katama is definitely going to be a wrench in the cog at this point. It's very strange what's going on. Looks like Wakanda is going to be in a really bad place throughout this story, and it's just going to follow what kind of a future world the Marvel Knights universe would have. The art is great, though, folks. You really should check it out to see where Quesada has gone. You know, I recognize this as Quesada's art, but it's much more heavily rendered with black shadows and stuff like say a Bernie Wrightson or something than I was used to seeing Quesada do. When Quesada was drawing in the 90s, I felt like it was a lot more open line art, a little more cartoony. It still like has some of those hallmarks, but yeah, it's really wonderful. And I think that dialogue wise and mythology wise, this feels like a Black Panther story, even though it's sort of about the death of Black Panther in a way. And that's because Christopher Priest created a lot of important mythology for him. Mm-hmm. It's a big deal to see him back on sequentials, yeah. A commentary on the rules of miscegenation. Oh, I can't say it. Yeah. No, the Ryan Gosling thing was always a meme. Like, hey, Ryan Gosling is popular. And it was like honestly done by a lot of people that are like, man, I can't believe they made, this character, that character black or Latin in a movie. And they were like, well, why don't they make Ryan Gosling Black Panther by that logic? It's like, it's obviously not the same thing. Certain characters are defined by where they're from and what their culture are. Not all of them, but a few of them definitely are. So, yeah. He might be Black Panther's brother Hunter's kid. Yeah, sort of like an extended family member or something. Maybe. It does look kind of painted. So, I mean, I think that we should give some credit to Richard. I've never known how to pronounce his last name. Richard Isanove. Because he's always done sort of a painterly thing. Going back, I remember his painted colors on Jay Lee's art in the Dark Tower comics, sort of an expansion of the Stephen King's Dark Tower mythology. Anyway, I think it looks good. I think it's interesting. And I think Christopher Priest is a little bit of a genius for like giving us a white sun for Black Panther, just because it's going to get people talking for at least a month until we sort of know exactly what's happening with all of this. So kudos is all I got to say. I think he knows where it's going. Only Priest could write this story and not get canceled. He's joked that like this puts him on the line, but he's got an upcoming Image comic that he says will get him canceled. That said, Priest has always had a sense of humor. He wrote the book Quantum and Woody, one of the best Valiant comics out there. Quantum and Woody is really funny. It's a little dated now, but he's got a sense of humor and he knows how to do big twists. Comic Drake made a video about the last white Black Panther. Comic Drake does a lot. Here's a really strong issue. This is the finale of The Moon is Following Us. 10 issues. It's bigger than a 6-issue series. It's not like the same as, say, Transformers is almost, we're up to 2 years. But anyway, yeah. So this completes Daniel Warren Johnson and Riley Rossmo's story about some parents trying to wake up their daughter and going basically into a world that seems to be her dream world. And going up against the sort of nightmares and imaginary characters in there. And the final issue kind of turns some of that logic on its head a little bit, but it all is fair. Is it a satisfying conclusion? Yes, definitely is a satisfying conclusion. Is it an emotional conclusion? No surprise there. Daniel Warren Johnson has a knack for finding ways to make his characters relatable and have relationships that we recognize in ourselves, in our daily lives, no matter how fantastical the ideas are. It can be post-apocalyptic, supernatural, science fiction. He finds a way to make his characters go through some emotional stuff. This one, did it get me to cry? No. Did it make me feel a little emotional? Yes. Is it my favorite thing he's done? No. But even something that isn't my favorite by Daniel Warren Johnson, I've found is still incredibly high. There are certain writers that pretty much always satisfy me. Ed Brubaker, Daniel Warren Johnson. I think there's a bunch. It's not fair to try to list them all because then I'll leave somebody out. If you haven't read it, do I recommend it? I really do. I think that the art, of course, is fantastic, and they legit have some scary creatures in this, and it is a bittersweet ending, but it's pretty. It's very pretty. They really did some special stuff, Riley and Daniel, in this. And we get like sort of a bit of an extended bit of an epilogue to give us an idea of where all these characters ended up. I also liked that, like, while it was not a lot, Daniel Warren Johnson did illustrate pages in this comic. He illustrates anything that takes place in the real world, whereas Riley illustrated everything that took place in the dream world. And I think that Riley with a lot of ideas in this, like just how isolated this character looks. But he's not like in the center of this void. He's at the bottom of this big panel. So it looks like there's some depth to it. You know, he looks like he's deep in something, the depths of depression, as compared to just being in a black void in the center. This carries more weight just by simply placing it there. Good composition, good storytelling, really impressive attention to detail there throughout. So very impressive, very impressive. Just got the first trade paperback. Love both artists. Great fit in their respective art style. Yeah, that was Priest that I was just going through. I am a little harsher than you on this one. I read all 10 issues and was underwhelmed. Didn't connect with it. I didn't connect with it in the same way that I connected with Do a Powerbomb or Wonder Woman Dead Earth or Transformers. I would put those all ahead. But I think that like it also has superior storytelling and more of a resonant emotional heart than, say, even Murder Falcon, which I respect a hell of a lot. I like it a lot. I'll give it something like a B to a B plus. A lot of what I get from Daniel Warren Johnson, I'd put as high as like an A to an A minus. So that's me. I'm talking about a creator who I've fallen for. Like it does resonate. It's not, but I'm trying to also like temper what I'm saying. I hope that my review makes sense to everybody. Let's see. When I spend money on a comic, I always think I better get satisfied. This better not besmirch me. Fair. As far as anything else I read this week, I read the latest volume of Dandadan. And goddamn, is this artwork impressive to me. This doesn't give me exactly what my favorite stuff is throughout, which is primarily the relationship between the two main characters, Momo and Takakura. We get a little of that right towards the very end, a little. And I love that their relationship. But we do get to learn about one of the supporting characters, Vamola, or Bamora, if you said it in Japanese. She's an alien whose planet has been subjugated by the aliens that are the bad guys in the rest of the manga. And her story is actually really good. You could alienate your reader with an alien character, but fortunately, her relationship with her adoptive mother is very convincing. And I'm saying too much because I don't know where I'm going, and I'm also getting distracted by the artwork. I love a lot of this artwork. There's almost always in every chapter some really good action scenes and some really detailed, crazy alien action. Like, look at this. Like this sort of kaiju punching an alien, a gigantic alien to pieces. These aliens become like more well-defined in this issue. We realize that they basically take over the bodies of the people that they subjugate and like use their powers and abilities as they conquer different planets. Anyway, it's fun. And I love the artwork. It's some of my favorite. It's really clean and clear. Good match of good mix of detail and clarity. And it's funny. It's also often a little bit funny. Yeah. Vamola's adoptive mom made me cry. I got kind of emotional about it too. That arc was insane. Tons of cool monster designs. That's one of the most fun parts of it. No, hasn't shown up in the anime yet. Maybe towards the very end of this second season. We're just not quite there yet. I'm trying not to spoil it all. Let's see. Never seen this. Reminds me of Akira in terms of crazy busy pencils. Yeah. Yukinobu Tatsu was a what do you call them? Not an apprentice, an assistant for who does Chainsaw Man? Really like that artist. Do I have a Chainsaw Man manga nearby? It'll say. Who did he work for? Oh yeah, Tatsuki Fujimoto. Tatsuki Fujimoto is a very good artist. Yukinobu Tatsu is also like really good. And you're right. Like there's a lot of detail to some of this stuff. Like not every artist or their assistants, whatever it is, does this much detail on backgrounds. But it's part of what makes the story stand out when you have like, the somewhat simplified, but, really well structured characters against really realistic, detailed backgrounds. It's pretty spectacular. There's a lot of different textures at play in this book. A lot of different textures. Is it quite at the detail level of Akira? No. But as far as like regular manga that's coming out these days, it's up there. It's really high up there. And then finally, volume 14 of Vinland Saga came out. The last volume was like about, not quite 2 years ago. It was over a year ago, though. Like about a year and a half. Vinland Saga is a story about the nature of like war and slavery. Wow, it's so weird how every once in a while I just sort of glow like that. I love this book, folks. I love this book. The main character is a Viking, basically, a Norseman. Thorfinn. And Thorfinn in the this is quite an epic. When it says saga, it really fits the bill because we meet Thorfinn as a child and he becomes basically a slave and he only knows war. And as he gets older, he starts to see the effect on the world of war. And he decides that he doesn't want to live in that world. He wants to sort of form a world that's peaceful and more fair. And he eventually, it takes a long time because look at how thick this is. And this is volume 14. This is a big story. And it's still going, by the way. Eventually, he decides that to follow like the stuff that he's learned from Leif Erikson and go to an area that he calls Vinland, which is basically North America. And it's based on a lot of history. It is fictional, okay? But there were characters that a lot of the main characters in this book have real life versions of. I'm not thinking of a good enough word, but it does follow Canute, the boy king from Denmark. Follows a lot of the history of what was happening with Denmark and Sweden and the UK and Greenland and Iceland. And now we're at the point where Thorfinn has finally led a big contingent of his people to the area they call Vinland, which is North America. And they're trying to live without weapons, and they're trying to grow wheat and trying to make friends with the local tribe that they know as the Ulnu, but I believe are today known as the Micmac tribe. And there's a lot of historical accuracy in this, even though it's fictional. So while this is heavily fictionalized, it really takes you down an interesting path to learning about history and just sort of like the differences between some of these cultures. This is a manga. There's no Japanese people in this. It's all about Nordic tribes, and now, like It starts around volume 13, native tribes. And we're unfortunately at like a point where like Thorfinn is so close to realizing his dream. You know, he partially has realized his dream of leading these people to become farmers and to escape the wars that were plaguing, you know, the UK and Denmark at this point in time, and escape the Viking culture. And at the same time, now the concern is, well, we don't have any weapons. Like Thorfinn said, no weapons, but we can't understand everything that the locals are saying. And we can tell that they want to learn our ways of growing wheat. They want to learn about our boats. They would love to learn about our iron axes and stuff. So we're like, there are people that are afraid that one day they'll get attacked and that they need to build at the very least walls. And Thorfinn is like, no, that'll seem aggressive. We need to like find a way to make peace. And the native tribe also has certain people that like really want to learn the new things. And there's some people that like predict, no, if they keep chopping down trees and cultivating the land and stuff, A, they think that they might anger spirits, and B, they think that they could, you know, one day push them away from some of their land. So they have both sides have very legitimate concerns. And it's really sad to see them sort of moving towards hostility, even though like a lot of their leadership is trying to lead them towards peace. We basically know that this experiment is not going to fully work because these are not the people that started, you know, what North America is today. Jack has things to add to this conversation. It's beautiful artwork. It's not detailed in the same way as what I was just showing you with, thank you, Jack. It's food time for my cats. It's not detailed in the same way, but it's detailed in a very realistic way. It makes me feel for the characters. There's a wide range of characters in this. People that have farmers, people that have like been in war, people that have backgrounds in fishing and exploring. It's all about exploration, and it's all about trying to find a way to make a more peaceful world after having experienced war and slavery. So it deals with a lot of big things. It is occasionally a little bit funny. It has some lighthearted characters. It has some incredible action earlier. Folks, I gotta say it. Vinland Saga Volume 14 is my pick for book of the week. I almost got that out. Yeah. Makoto Yukimura, he's the writer and artist of Vinland Saga. He takes his history very seriously. He's traveled a lot and spoken with the Micmac tribe. He's visited all sorts of historical sites for Viking history. And he's taken that history and turned it into a fictional tale, but based on real people that tells us something real. And I just find it incredibly interesting. It makes me interested in the real history. I find it incredibly emotional as like the characters get themselves tied up in knots with what to do next. Yeah, this is my pick for book of the week. It just came out. It's been a long time since we've got a volume. I don't know why it was delayed. Maybe there was a hiatus that I don't know about, but it's a brilliant book. It will take you a while to read it all if you haven't read it yet. Now that it's at 14, the book is still going. But this is definitely its end game. You know, like this is its end game. And I'm excited to see how it concludes. I can't say and that's part of the fun of the book because it's fictionalized. You can't just read the history and go, oh, well, that's how it ends. No, it's slightly fictionalized. Reminds you of Brian Wood's Viking comic, The Northlanders? Sure. I stopped reading Vinland Saga when it switched from Viking stories to farming. I feel like that's what it was always about, so I am happily still following it. And yes, it is a very different kind of manga. what Wally just said, is probably a point where it's not going to be for everybody, because more than the first half, like I'll say 2/3 of the book, is definitely more actiony. Very, very lots of fighting. But Thorfinn is a character that wants to be better. And he starts it as a pretty dark character but it's because he was basically kidnapped as a kid, and he's obsessed with revenge. And it takes him a long time to realize the flaws in his thinking. And that's interesting to learn from. So I still find it really, really interesting watching him try to establish, a government and a society. Very different challenges than winning a battle, but still its own battle, because it's a battle of philosophies now. And to show that visually is interesting. So there are still there is still conflict, but the conflict does change. Maybe if you know that going in, you might be able to enjoy it on the level that I am. I'm not sure. Most written Viking history was written by the receiving end. Yeah, a lot is learned by archaeology. That's fair. So anyway, that was my pick of the week. It was a great week for comics. Man, this was a fun episode to make for everybody. Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti being both hilarious and interesting. Crazy news, like DC Comics having new leadership, essentially. And a heck of a lot of interesting comics. I'm interested potentially to still see where these Marvel sort of event things go. You know what? I'm curious. At this point, I think both the Ultimate line and the Absolute line at Marvel and DC are very good overall. They're very good. Would you say that one is better than the other? I think I'd slightly lean towards saying that the Ultimate line is better. It's a little more cohesive, even though it's doing its own thing. It feels like it takes place in the same world, I guess is what I'll say, even though each book is doing its own thing very independently. And I think because of Ultimates and Ultimate X-Men, as well as most of the time Ultimate Spider-Man, it's got a slightly higher quality. But the overall favorite book I've got from Absolute and Ultimate is Absolute Wonder Woman. I hope you enjoyed the interview. I think that came out quite well. There was a lot more I would love to talk to them about, but I was trying to, do a bunch of show tonight. The amount of money I spend on those two. I love Jimmy and Amanda. Me too. Reading most of the Absolutes. That's fair. I love Absolute Wonder Woman. Absolute Flash looked good and had good ideas. I just didn't care quite enough to stick with it. Absolute Green Lantern, I don't really care about. Absolute Martian Manhunter, I do find impressive, but I guess both that and Absolute Superman weren't quite gripping me enough. But I like Absolute Batman. I like Absolute Wonder Woman. Yeah. Let's see. I got the first issue of Ultimate Avengers. That one did not hit, but I have hopes for Spider-Man. Absolute for me. Loving all the books. Favorite is Superman. The new Brainiac is gnarly. That's cool. Dude, I feel like last week we talked about Marvel and DC have announced their Batman, Deadpool crossovers. Good idea. And they said that there will be more crossovers in 2026. I feel like you'd be leaving a lot of money on the table if you didn't do something with Absolute and Ultimate. It's what people like right now. I think it would be a good idea. Okay, a lot of people liking the Absolute stuff. Fair. That's totally fair. I'm a Batman stan, and I haven't purchased Absolute Batman. Oh, really? I like what they're doing with Absolute Batman, because I do feel like it's at the core, it feels like Batman, and yet it feels very different, because it's not a rich guy that can just sort of buy technology and is a detective. It's an engineer, and he creates gadgets and uses his engineering skills. And he also I think uses his friends and family in an interesting way. So I like it. I like it a lot. Absolute Batman is very different from regular Batman. It really is. It still feels at the core like Batman. He looks like Batman, you know, he's got the cowl and the cape, and he's, you know, still protecting Gotham City from weirdos, but he's different. It's different. And I like that. And I think Absolute Wonder Woman's very different. I think you'll enjoy those. I really do. I can only give my take ultimately. You know, I don't intentionally want to walk a middle of the road going, this is what's good, this is what's bad. You decide. But I am going to say, hey, this is my opinion, and I feel strongly about this, but I don't feel strongly about that. And a lot of these comics, I don't feel super strongly like this is the best or this is the worst. I feel somewhere in the middle, and I'm trying to give my nuanced take so that somebody can like go like, okay, well, what he's saying he doesn't like, I don't care as much about, and what he's saying he does like, I do care about, so I might like that book more than him, you know, something like that. But I will speak up if something really stands out as great or as total crap. Ultimate Marvel, how dare you? So anyway, I'm going to call it, I think, on this show in just a sec. Just know that working on a new trash movie bonanza for this channel, and I'm working on a Joe Kubert episode on comic tropes. And as soon as I wrap that up, to be safe, since these things always take me longer than I expect, I'm going to roll into an All-Star Superman episode so that hopefully I can get that out before the movie hits. Yeah, it's definitely dinner time for my cats, which usually is sort of a good indication that I should remember to eat as well. I had a blast. Thank you, everybody, for the interesting conversation. Thank you for the super chats, especially, you know, John Dorsey. Thank you for that huge one. That was very, very kind of you. But I appreciate all of this stuff. You know, even if it's just things like and subscribe, means a lot to me. By the way, I do try now to do a little extra on the Patreon. At the $2 and up level, you always get to vote on and see one extra episode that I don't release to everybody. It doesn't have editing with images. It's just an essay on something where I talk to the audience, but it's extra. And it seems to be going well. People seem to like it. So would love your support on the Patreon if you're in a position to do something like that. A little bit of small donations add up to me being able to potentially do this for a living. We'll see. Yeah. There were some choppy moments with the connection. Oh, I didn't see that on my ends. I'm sorry to hear that. All right. Well, I had a good time, everybody. I'll give you a double salute. Can't quite raise this arm as high. See, I can get this one up here if I need to. This is as high as I can get this one. But I'll give you double salute. That's pretty good. Take care, everybody. Keep reading comics. Bye.